Bearcat Bounce Podcast, back at it again. Happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday following a happy Thanksgiving where I am thankful for each and every one of you. Happy Monday as well following the season finale for the Cincinnati Bearcats football team in year one of the Scott Satterfield era, also year one of the Big 12. Also, happy Monday where basketball finally returns tomorrow night at Howard. Very special Monday as well, where we have a special guest. So, without further ado, let's welcome in the pals, the guys, the Bearcat enthusiasts, Aaron Smith, Chad Brenda, Ryan Royer, and of course, very special guest, your director of athletics for the University of Cincinnati Bearcats, John Cunningham. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing good. Had a good holiday weekend, minus the unfortunate events of Saturday night, but ready to get this basketball season cracking tomorrow night. We will be, if you are available, you are more than welcome to join us. The 1-year anniversary for Cincy Reigns. We will have a watch party. I will be there. I believe Kelsey will be there with me. It should be a good time at Rhine Guys tomorrow. All the Cincy Light you can drink, and the Bearcats basketball taking on Howard. So looking forward to a big event tomorrow night. Bearcat Journal partnering with Cincy Reigns.
Is there an official start time for that, Chad? Or is it kind of just
7 p.m.?
Well, that's tip-off, but
doors open at 6.
Doors are open at 6. Get there between 6 and 7 and get ready to – this is why it's good to have you here, John.
Well, Aaron, how are we, sir?
I'm good. Made it back home after being in Cincy for the weekend for the holiday and all of that, and back and ready to do the damn thing.
Lock in. Ryan Royer, how are we, sir? Looking good down there today?
Thank you. I'm good. Just good holiday weekend. Kind of had a little sour taste, though, on Saturday. Not the best way to end the year, but it was still good. Be around family, kind of take your mind off of a very, very tough season. But like Chad said, basketball's picking up, so it's a bright spot in my my sport watching commitments that I now have while no longer wearing the pads.
There we go. Lock in. And of course, a former resident of Lincoln, Nebraska, a former high school basketball, golf, and cross-country star, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh, star's a stretch.
Hey, we like to stretch things on the BVP here, but current, of course, we've already mentioned, director of athletics. Thanks for joining us, John Cunningham. John, how are we?
Yeah, good to be with you guys. It's always good. I was saying earlier when we jumped on, it's good to see Ryan. Always good to see him. You know, when we talk about life after ball, Ryan and a couple of his teammates are people we point directly to and just say that, you know, we got a lot of really, really sharp student athletes amongst our 450, and they're doing special things even after they're done and put the cleats up. So great to see Ryan again.
Well, John,
Real
that's
quick,
hats
Brent.
off to you guys, though. Your administration. I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at without you guys, job-wise, life-wise. So you got to take some of that credit.
Well, that's the beauty of what we do. And you know, as college athletics continues to be a little bit under attack and things are changing, at the core, I still think that we provide a really big service in terms of, you know, life-changing experience and you know, a lesson in leadership and, you know, tough times like we went through, but life can be tough and you gotta be able to, you know, bounce back and handle the good with the bad. And it was a rough year for football, but you know, these young men are going to be stronger for it. And let's bounce back next year and finish. You know, we just weren't able to finish a lot of times this year, and that just kept coming up. So let's make sure we finish next year.
Real quick before we get started.
Season. That's good though.
Yeah. Thanks to Adele, Ryan Montgomery's mom. She has been here with us through thick and thin. And Ryan, as John will attest, is one of the beacons of light in the UC athletics program. As much adversity as you could possibly battle through, and he did it with a smile on his face for a long time. and a kid that every time he got an opportunity made the most of that opportunity. So Adele, let Ryan know, and I let him know. I dapped him up and gave him a big hug after the game, told him thanks for everything, because he is top notch and a first class kid. So thank you for being here, Adele, and we expect you to stick around. And don't vanish on us now. We want to see you in the chat from time to time. And John, you can attest to that. Like, Ryan Montgomery was everything that's right about college sports.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no doubt about it. And we, like I said, we've got a lot of those young men and women, and that's one of the things that I talk to my staff all the time is like, let's keep highlighting them because they're special, and let's make sure that we tell that story as much as we can. So I agree with you 100%, Chad.
Monty's
John, let's
best, baby. Love me some Monty.
Let's get started. This is obviously, day one ready. Wanted to be, hit the ground running in the Big 12. You go through a situation where you go into the conference, you have a coaching change, you have to navigate the coaching change, you have to kind of work on the roster on the fly, as Scott Satterfield's staff had to do with exits and departures and transfer portal. And, I think over 2 years, it was something like 19 guys in the NFL over a 3-year stretch from 20 to 22. How difficult is this to see things not go, as planned, to see things kind of, you have a bunch of games early where, the decisions are in the balance, you lose a bunch of 1-score games, and then it kind of gets away from you, which is, unfortunately what can happen in sports at times. But from the athletic director's department, how tough is this on you as an athletic director, and, your constant communication with Scott Satterfield and the football program, and monitoring things to make sure this is kind of a one-off and it's not something that is more than an adjustment period?
Yeah, it's hard on everybody, but I think it's, when you talk about being in the athletic director chair, it's hard because you see every day the program and how much they work for it, and the young men, the student athletes, and how hard they're working. I think our strength conditioning program under Nico, it was really good leading up to this. I think that we had one of the things we pointed out is we didn't have a lot of injuries this year, and they look at soft tissue injuries, I think is maybe the wrong term, but they look at, pulled muscles and those types of things. We didn't have a lot of those. And I think that speaks to how hard they worked in the off season, but there's so much, and Ryan can attest, there's so much that goes into it all year. And you go out to higher ground and they put in so much work to learn a brand new offense, to look across and see, 30 new members of or probably more, 39 new members of the team, and try to figure out who those guys are and build some trust quickly. I think football is the ultimate team sport, and you got to trust and believe everybody around you is going to do their job. And that takes some time. And that's what higher ground is all about, is trying to build that. But, even in a couple week period of time, it's hard to build that. And, so, you go through all of that and you open up and you win a couple games. But to be honest with you, our depth was exposed, in my opinion. And I think that one thing we'll learn as we go into the Big 12 is you have to have depth at every position. You can't have holes. If you have holes at all, those teams are going to expose you for that. They've had years of recruiting into the Big 12 and building that youth and that depth up. And I just think that we just didn't have that strong depth. And some of that had to do with the new coaching staff coming in and the loss of some talented players and some attrition and some things that you do expect. But that it's hard. Back to your original question, it's hard because I feel for our student athletes, our coaches. I feel for our fans. I never want to lose a game in Nippert. I think that place is so special. I was so proud of our fan base, the way they showed up all year. I was proud of the fans that came out for the Kansas game. That meant a lot to our young people and our seniors. And we don't want to lose. Nobody wants to lose. It's painful for everybody. It's hard. And so now, like you said, this is all about making sure that we don't go through a losing season again. I mean, that's, losing seasons, you never want those. You want to end on the side of having more wins and losses at a minimum. And certainly our standard is much higher than even that. But we know we got to build it and find the pieces. And that's been my conversation with this staff I was in with them today. And there's a lot of energy around, let's go. Now let's keep building. Let's keep figuring out how we're going to do this and build it the right way. And if you look at some of those teams that have had coaching changes in the Big 12, Kansas State, some of those programs, takes a couple years. You get your pieces to the puzzle in place, and then you get a chance to go from there and really build it. So that's what we're going to do.
I want to rewind real quick on something you just said. I didn't know what to expect Saturday night. Plenty of tickets sold, but you had FC Cincinnati with a playoff game in town. You had a tough season. There were a lot of the weather. It wasn't exactly a warm and comfortable night on Saturday. And I wasn't sure what to expect from the fan base. And for me, it was going to be a gauge of this fan base and their level of commitment in this new conference. And I was blown away. I mean, you knew the student section was going to be thin because of the holidays and being on break. But other than that, outside of the upper corners, which are going to be, a little light if it's not a rowdy, big time, game. I thought the fan base was outstanding on Saturday night, and a lot of credit to them because they showed up and they didn't have to. Whether they bought tickets or not, they didn't have to. And I was really impressed with that performance.
Yeah, I was too. We did a tailgate before the game. We did one every game this year. It was our biggest tailgate show out of the entire season. We did it inside of the TUC building and invited several sections of our season ticket holders and had our biggest crowd yet. And so that meant a lot to me. And then when you walked into the stadium, like you said, it still looked good. It sounded good. And a lot of people showed up for this team, and it means a lot. Now, at the same time, Chad, I understand how delicate this is, and I understand how important it is to keep this thing rolling because it's hard to build and easy to lose, and I really feel that. And so this thing needs to get going and going the right way because we owe it to our great fans that have put so much into this thing, and our former players. I had 3 or 4 former players that I was talking to on Saturday, and over different generations, and it just means so much to them to have Nippert the way it has been because a lot of those guys played in a Nippert stadium that wasn't like that, and so it's very top of mind for me, and I know our coaching staff, but for me personally, to have that sellout streak, I told my ticket staff to work as hard as we could to get those tickets sold, understanding there's a difference between tickets sold and butts and seats. But I wanted to keep that streak alive going into next year because I just felt like it was one thing that we could really, point to in terms of momentum. And now we got to go continue to show signs of moving forward so that our fans jump on board again next year. I know they will. And then we got to come out and play well next year.
So
yeah,
Ryan, go ahead.
John, you mentioned former players. I think being a former player, you just want to have teams out on the field, and the fans would agree with this. You want to have teams out on the field that make you proud to have played, make you proud to have either went to the university, or for fans that have just been going for years upon years. You want a team that just is relentless, is competitive. And I think a team that does that, I think you're going to have a way better product in Nippert. You're not going to be having blowouts at home like we've been dealing with this year. And I guess that's just one message that, as former players, we just want to keep reiterating, because that staff, I know they're trying to get a hold on of this culture and adjusting to the new ever-changing landscape of college football. So it's just like keep recruiting, keep building relentless competitors. Because I'm telling, sometimes that can get lost in the sauce, with football and having to adjust to the new NIL, the new transfer portal, all that, and trying to put your scheme in, trying to build a culture. And that's why I feel for these coaches. It's just a difficult landscape, but it's not an excuse. And I know they know that. I know you know that. So that kind of leads me into my two-sided question, because you mentioned the fans as well. If you have a message for the fans, because the drop-off's been hard, it's been steep. What message would you be to the fans to say, hey, how do you keep the faith in this program, and how do we rebound from this? And is there something that you can kind of put into words that can describe your vision moving forward? And the second part of the question is, how are you saying that to the coaches as well? Because they're trying to get a grip on what it means to be a Bearcat. So what's your kind of word of advice to instill that vision in the fans and the coaches?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So a couple things. I think, if you just go back to this season, and you look kind of through the whole length of the season and kind of the ups and downs, you knew that there were probably going to be some ups and downs. But I would say, we outgained 7 of 12 opponents, and we were in, we had 1-score games most of the way outside of Oklahoma State, and then toward the end we struggled. But our last 2 games, don't forget, a bowl game was not a possibility. And for all the right reasons, we were playing a lot of guys that hadn't played. To Ryan, to your point, do they have the heart to go out there and just compete and play? And let's get some of these younger guys some minutes that they haven't had, especially in the second half. If you look in the second half of West Virginia and Kansas, we had guys in there that had not played minutes, especially on defense in the backfield and things like that. So no excuses. There's never. We've got to compete and make tackles and be in the right places and stop people and score touchdowns. But I do think that there's some things to point to. We were 5th in the country in rushing. Our offensive line comes back. We've got a really a show out running back in Kiner that hit 1,000 yards and just runs like you, Ryan. You said you want guys that play hard. Corey Kiner runs hard, right? He plays that way. And so I think we have some things to immediately point to there. We've got to shore up some areas and just get some dudes that love to play football. And I think we have a lot of those guys. We just got to make sure that we continue to recruit those types of guys. And to your point, the portal has a lot of upside because you can have a fast track to getting better. It has downside if you don't get the right portal guys that aren't here for the right reasons. And I think every coach in the country, not just us, every coach in the country is starting to learn how to navigate that portal a little bit better, because it is a speed dating situation, and you don't get to know the guys like you do when you recruit them as freshmen. And so you really got to start, really digging in a strategic way and looking at, is it worth it to bring in a 1-year guy, or can you go get a two-year guy that can ingrain themselves in the program a little bit better? There's a lot of things that coaches are starting to learn about the portal that I think that we learned some lessons on as well. So, I'm proud of these guys because I do think they played hard. And I think that we had, like I said, I think we had some depth issues, and we were probably playing some guys that weren't quite ready for Big 12 at times. But that's okay, because that's part of growing and getting better. So, let's look for improvement. Let's look for that edge that we should be able to have at Cincinnati, and let's go win ball games next year and win some of those close games and make sure that we finish. How many times were we inside the 20 early in the year and didn't get in? That could have flipped our season right there. So you could point to several things that could have made this season a lot different. We just gotta make sure we finish next year.
so the wins and losses obviously are what they are, and can't go back and change those. But can you harness and find success in big noon kickoff, Fox coming? That was a wild atmosphere, a lot of excitement going into that. Obviously, year one of the Big 12. I thought a lot of excitement at each tailgate, a lot of excitement, on the road, and it seemed like overall take away the success on the field, but in the end, that's all that matters. It seemed like there were some successful situations and moments and scenarios that you can draw from and try and pinpoint those as something that you can use as momentum moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I was getting at. Now, at the end of the day, it's W's and L's, and to Ryan's point, how hard we play. We don't want to give up easy scores. You don't want to have bad turnovers. You don't want to make mistakes you shouldn't make. Those are the things that you gotta, you never want a fan base that kind of shakes their head. And at times, I think we had some of those moments, right? So that's what you're sure up. But I do think if you went back and looked at certain games, you'd say, man, we were either right there, or if we just finished or didn't make this play or that play, momentum's a big deal in every sport. And if you win a couple of those games early, I think momentum shifts and you have a different story to tell. But that didn't happen, and so you learn from that, you move on, but we've got to go get back to what we know, which is tough, hard-nosed, disciplined football.
Yeah. Sorry, John, it sounds like your message is really, keep the faith. We're close. There's a lot of things that we need to get better, but we did a lot of good things, and we have momentum going into next year. So kind of keep the faith. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yeah, and I also think that you look at kind of the Big 12 and what the Big 12 looks like year to year, which is TCU's on top, then TCU's on bottom. Oklahoma State's on bottom, Oklahoma State's on top. Iowa State's on bottom, Iowa State's on top. I mean, it's just that is that league in the parity. So it's driven by just kind of the breaks you get throughout a year. I think a lot of it for us again has to do with depth that we're creating. Because if you have an injury or two, you got to be able to withstand that. And then everybody knows that it's a quarterback driven league, just like everything else. You got to find that piece, and you got to have a lot of pieces around it. But we've got to be better. Listen, I can dig in and talk about it all day, but everybody knows and feels it, right? I think maybe that's the point. I think more than anything is I feel it. I felt much differently about the Baylor game than I did about the Kansas game, right? I felt like we played pretty freaking hard in the Baylor game, and it just didn't go our way. We made a couple mistakes, and just those are different feelings than when you're in a game and then it gets out of hand. That doesn't feel good for anybody. So, we'll figure it out, and we're gonna be tougher for it. I do believe in that. I think sometimes you want to find guys that love to play. Well, you're gonna find out who really loves to play by having a tough season, and it does happen. People have tough seasons in college football, and then it's can you bounce back and get after it? And I think we got the right mentality to do that.
I agree with what you were saying with that. Oh, are you sending them all?
No, I was going to say real quick. The conversation around West Virginia the entire offseason was not when Neil Brown was going to be fired, but like how many games into the season before they fired him, and they go 8-4. Like in this league, especially, there's such a roller coaster, and I would say even more so now with the two teams that are leaving. There's such a roller coaster from year to year. There's not that sustained hierarchy like you see in a lot of other leagues, which creates the opportunity to go from struggling one year to winning the coin flip games the next, or doing better in the coin flip games the next. Because I talked about that a ton in the off. This is a league of coin flip games. Are there probably, unless you're at the top, are there probably going to be one or two teams that are really good, one or two teams that are having a down year? Yes, but everybody else is like this. And that's not most leagues. Most leagues, you don't see that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, we talk about it as ADs in the room, and they kind of all tell that story, which is from year to year, it doesn't feel like in the Big 12 who's gonna have that breakout year. So it's open. I mean, you can go get after it. So I believe that, and but boy, you gotta be able to have all those pieces in place, and you got to be able to bounce back from a tough loss and not let it get to you, and not let some of the negativity that can pop in affect you during the season. Even look at Oklahoma State. Remember how they started the year? I mean, all of a sudden you thought, but that's an example. That's a good example of a team that didn't let negativity get into their locker room, and a veteran coach that pushed them through, and now they're in the championship game. So you just got to be willing to handle the ups and downs in the Big 12, because that's that league.
Do you have anything that you're searching in and being an AD that you're honing in on? Like, how do we get to the top of the pack? What is something that you feel like you're trying to investigate about? How can we drive that consistency in a league where it's not like the American, where you have those top dogs who've been established for years upon years? And is there something that you're finding in your journey in the Big 12, like, we might be able to do this better and this better and this better, kind of set us apart from that pack and get back to being at the top of a conference?
Yeah, I think our advantage is Cincinnati, and our advantage is Ohio in every one of our sports. I think that separates us automatically. And when we talk about that with all of our sports, I mean, people, if you look kind of at where people are moving, young people want to be in cities now. And that's why the university continues to go up in terms of admissions. And I think there's a lot to be said for what our school offers, what the city of Cincinnati offers. That's why it's so important. That's why it was so important for those fans to come out at that Kansas game, because we had recruits there, right? We had young men that were looking at it and saying and asking the question that Chad was asking, is how are they going to show up? And they showed up. So that tells you a lot about a fan base. So I think our fans, our city, are things that will separate us from other schools in the Big 12. And, the depth of talent in and around the 300-mile radius, we talk about it all the time. I think that continues to be something that we point to in every single one of our sports.
John, you've been on record as having fall be your favorite season. Just wanted to get a pulse on the other fall sports outside of football and stuff. Could you just give a quick, ring around on how those seasons went?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked some about soccer. I was really proud of that program under a brand new coach, to go out there and compete the way they did. They had a lot of decisions, which were for them ties, and a few really key wins in the Big 12 for their first year in the Big 12, including one over Baylor in the Big 12 tournament. With the last second goal. That was pretty awesome. One of the great moments of the fall for me. So I was really, really proud of that program to go compete the way they did, kind of, finish middle of the pack in the Big 12, but coming off of a season that was okay in the American, to step up. I think they did that. Volleyball, kind of the same story. Molly has a really young team, Molly Alvey. And probably, one of our best players is a freshman, and a couple of our other top players are sophomores and juniors. So a lot of pieces coming back for Molly's team. Another team that won some Big 12 matches, that was nice to see, because they really took a step forward just in terms of, this soccer team could have beat last year's soccer team. This volleyball team definitely would have beaten last year's volleyball team, right? If they matched up. So we're taking steps forward there. And I'm proud of Coach Alvey. He has a really top level recruiting class coming in 24 and then again in 25. So she's recruiting into the Big 12. And it's a tough league. So that'll be fun to see what she does here in the future. We had some track success. Swimming's off to a really strong start, especially on the women's side. So, I'm always watching those things, and we're going to celebrate the wins when we get them. Cause in this league, you got to, cause these are top level programs, championship level programs across the board.
I was there. We talked after the Houston volleyball match and what their entire rotation of players were either seniors or like 50 or 6-year super seniors. And their middle, she looked like she was like 27 years old. Like they were old coming into the league.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, Wes Miller and I talk about it all the time. To get old is pretty important now. If you can get old,
stay old.
Get old, stay old. You see it in every sport, 50 years, 60 years, those guys and young women make a difference because they've seen it all. And so the more we can do that, and that's part of retention, that's part of Cincy Reigns, that's part of NIL, is you don't want to lose your top players. And when you have a top player, you got to try to do everything you can to make sure you keep them if they're the right fit for the program, obviously. And so that's going to be important going forward.
I want to have one more question on football. You were part of the whole Athletes Village when you were at Minnesota, and you mentioned how you thought potential recruits would view, how they would view the place during their official and unofficial visits. Is that kind of what you envisioned a bit with the indoor practice facility and the performance center? And also, can we get a little update on the progress of how that's going?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan can attest to this. There's so much time that they put into the facility in terms of just the number of hours that they spend there. So when you talk to Coach Miller and Coach Maryweather about what a difference that locker room and that lounge area has meant to those programs, those kids don't go home now. Now they don't have to go back to their dorm. They just stay in the lounge and hang out and, create those bonds. We talked about going to higher ground. Well, that's a 2-week thing. Well, if you can really create some deep bonds by hanging out together, that makes a difference. And so we're starting to see that more in basketball, and obviously football spends a lot of time together, but we don't have that hangout place like you do once we build this new facility. So it's going to make a big difference. It's going to be a beautiful, it's going to have everything you need and more. It's going to be top level, as good as anything you're going to find in the Big 12. So it's certainly something we'll recruit to now and all the way through, obviously, until it's built. The other thing I've been so excited about is the nutrition center that's going to be a part of that facility. And again, you want to talk about a place that you can really come together as an athletics department. It's going to be open to all of our student athletes and all of our staff. And it means a lot to be able to sit down next to your athletes during mealtime and have them interact with each other. And it can really create a really special bond. I saw that happen at Minnesota because my first year we didn't have it. Second year it came online, their nutrition, all sport nutrition center, and it was a game changer for the whole department. So excited about that.
John, I had a question for you about the football stadium, I guess. The Ring of Honor has been a point of conversation for quite some time for fans, for players, past and present. And I'm just kind of curious as to when anything is going to be done to update that, as it's been quite some time, even before your time.
Yeah. Aaron, good question. And it's one we talk about and have been discussing quite a bit here recently. Obviously, move the Ring of Honor up to an actual ring above the stadium, which I think is the appropriate way to do it, and created an opportunity to kind of expand that Ring of Honor. So what happens, I think, when you have multiple athletics directors and multiple visions and things that have occurred over the last 20 years at Cincinnati, you get some disconnect on Hall of Fame versus Ring of Honor and how you determine who fits where. And there's a lot that goes into it. It's not as easy as just starting to throw some names up there, although we need to, because we got some people that deserve to be up there and will be. But you also want to think about the timing of it. You don't want to overlook anybody. You want to think about the criteria and who fits that criteria and why they fit that criteria. and are they in the Hall of Fame? Are they in the Ring of Honor and not in the Hall of Fame, or opposite? There's just a lot. There's more into it, and I want to do it the right way. So we have a committee now that we formed. That
I'm not on it.
Chad, you are not on it. No, I'm sorry. I was gonna
waiting list.
I was gonna try to get you on there, but I'm not gonna put you on it, Chad. No, I'm sorry.
I mean, I've been here
Yeah,
for a long time now.
How about in a consultant role? We'll call you. We'll bring you in.
I
Honestly.
prefer that role.
Yeah.
Limited responsibility. You call me. That's my role.
Chad,
I'm in.
But you got to graduate from the school to be on the committee, Chad.
No, you don't.
You got. Honestly, we're going to call a lot of people. We've talked about that as a group. We said we've got to reach out to those that have been around, and really understand this place and understand what it means to be up there. But so we're going to do it. I could have really made this answer short and just said yes. We're going to put the people on there that need to be up there. We absolutely are. We have a lot of people from a couple different generations that should be up there. So look soon to start having new Ring of Honor inductees as well as Hall of Fame inductees. We want to do that the right way too.
I got a great promotional idea. There's these two guys I know that run a podcast. You put them in together, you get the podcast on campus. Maybe the biggest pop star in the world stops by.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been in some of our meetings, Chad. I think I'm going to start looking underneath my desk for a bug.
Try to get
You
that
haven't
angle.
figured it out yet?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Chad never misses a beat to shout out that podcast.
Shout out
always-
T-Swizzle and New Heights, baby. It's a
Yes,
good mix.
sir.
It's awesome.
Good stuff.
Good mix.
Go
Go ahead.
One more.
Well,
You said one more. I thought you had one more.
I was just gonna say, I mean, the night got a little better. The team that's not too far away from the team with Cincinnati on their chest fell today. So let's roll into basketball with that thought. Yeah.
I'm going to say something controversial tonight. I want Xavier to win every game but the UC game. And I don't know, maybe that's not the way to think about it. Now,
Not every game, because that would mean.
But I truly
Regular
I believe Cincinnati as a city is great when both of those programs are great, and then it makes it even sweeter when you win that game. So maybe when they get to a tournament game, you can start to change your mindset, or maybe I will. But I really do. I don't know. I haven't been here as long as you guys. I don't have the scar tissue and the deep-seated thoughts. But in my mind, if both of those programs are make it to the NCAA tournament every year, and then that game becomes a top 10, top 15 matchup every year, that's not a bad thing. So
it's been there. It's fun. It's a lot of fun in town when both are good.
Yeah.
And look, I like to mess around with Xavier fans, but I Chris Mack, when my wife was sick, Travis Steele, Chris Mack, both of them, including the guys on their staff, above and beyond, out of their way to offer support and whatever we needed. So I don't hate Xavier as much as I play into the narrative, but I do smile a little bit when they lose.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. The first time I was with Wes, and we went to Cintas, and that was one of our that was a season where fans were back finally, and we go there, and I was kind of interested to see how he reacted, and the team comes out. Head coaches always come out last at the right before the tip, and he comes out. I'm sitting behind the bench, and I'm looking at him, and he just looks so ready to go. And he looks at me, and he grabs me, and he goes, "I love this S." And he was like, "This is," and so he wasn't about like feeling intimidated or anything. Like he's like, "This is what it's about." And I think it was just that North Carolina Duke thing that blood was pumping the way it did for that matchup, and so I think he eats it up no matter if it's played at Fifth Third or Cintas. It's always a fun matchup.
He's Duke Carolina. He's Duke Carolina, he has you have to love that. It becomes who you are.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah.
And he has told me that he thinks this is more intense than Duke Carolina.
Ooh.
Mainly because it's once a year. They're in the same town. Like if you lose the first game, there's not a chance to get them back or get them back in the ACC conference tournament. Like he truly has bought in to like this thing's a big deal.
Well, and there's not really a close second. I think in North Carolina, you can play Syracuse or you can play North Carolina State or you can play. But here, I don't think there's a close second in terms of what this game means. So it's intense. And if you don't like that, then you're in the wrong profession.
Tickets to that game. Is there anything going on that's not going to be at Cintas or anything you want to get to on that front for the shootout?
I'm sure there will be around town. We don't have anything specific, Chad, in terms of a watch party. We have, you mentioned the Howard watch party here coming up. So that game's on ESPN Plus. So check that out on Tuesday. I do want to talk about, Dayton. Obviously, there's some clear reasons to do that I can't fully talk about in these new rules of NIL, but there was a reason to play that game and play it where we're playing it. So I hope people will understand that it makes a difference for both of our programs in a very positive way. So that kind of led to those conversations and that game getting done. Obviously being played down at Heritage Bank. We won't know the game time. This has created angst, but we won't know the game time until December 5th. That game's, I think, on the 16th. We won't know the game time until December 5th because of the NFL schedule and the Bengals being able to possibly play on Saturday or Sunday and flexing. So as soon as we get that game time, we'll get it out there. But please take the time to invest in this program and buy tickets to that game and get down there and check out a really fun matchup with Dayton. It'll mean a lot to our program. I know Dayton fans will come out in droves. That's going to be a really, one of their big games of the year. So we gotta reciprocate. So I ask people to do that. But yeah, those things are coming up, and it's important to keep filling Fifth Third. I know we will. It's an exciting time, and we'll keep fighting on Jamil and see if we can get him going too.
What was your response when you saw the alien Aziz Bandaogo walk out onto the floor for the first time Wednesday night?
I had flashbacks to the first time I saw him because I traveled with the team down to Utah Valley.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at him going, who is this dude? And I think like everybody else, you start trying to figure out where did this guy come from and what's his story? And they had a lot of other really good players too. That was a really good team. But to have him wearing Cincinnati Bearcat gear is pretty special. And, I remember talking to Wes about how important he was to the team. And he just said that when we scrimmage, if somebody's got Aziz, they have an advantage. And so that means a lot to me that, we want him on the floor. It's going to be crucial as we go into the Big 12.
What does it say to you about your head coach, the way he stood up and made a stand for Aziz and Jamil still, as Jamil's situation's going on? It would have been easy to just kind of, but Wes went the other way.
Yeah, he's a fighter. I mean, that's who he is. And that's why he looked at me at the Xavier game and he loved the fact that they were booing him nonstop. He loved it, right? That's who he is. He's a fighter. And that's who you want. You want somebody that's going to battle in everything, recruiting, in game planning, in work effort, all that stuff. And that's who he is. So I wasn't surprised. He's also one of the best coaches I've been around with a microphone in front of him. He has a way about him to tell a story, to tell it the right way for the right reasons. When he did his press conference for us, I went in to see him 10 minutes before the press conference. And I'd typed out my entire press notes and I knew exactly, I've been practicing and I go in there and he was just starting to take notes. And I said, Coach, what are you going to say? He's like, I don't know. Let me take a couple notes here. And if you remember, that was the that was just a remarkably good press conference about being fired up and saying all the right things. So that's who he is, man. If he wasn't a head basketball coach, he'd
motivational speaker,
be a politician, right? And so I'm glad he's a basketball coach.
2 feet in, 10 toes down, man. Fired up. It was a phenomenal speech. I didn't take. I wrote an article right after the speech because it had me fired up, to be all honest. But
no doubt.
When it comes to this team as a whole, because I first mentioned how you thought the whole MTE event went at Fifth Third. Seemed like each crowd has been pretty solid so far at Fifth Third as well. But just the Wednesday was special, obviously getting Aziz back. But it seems like this team is really meshing very quickly, and they're obviously out in the DC right now, and it looks like it's been a lot of these bonding and culture building things that's kind of really putting them together and having them have that confidence and momentum as a whole.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Number one, to play Howard, an HBCU and the history of that program, and to go to DC, and then to take the extra day to go down there a day early because of the opportunity to get around and see the monuments. And most of these young men haven't done that, probably. I'm fairly sure. And so to get a tour, then a private tour, I think tomorrow, of or maybe probably it would have been today, of the African American History Museum, right? And that means something, and that's special, and that's a bonding moment, And so it's just doing all those right things by these young men because it is about experiences as much as it is about anything else. You remember that for forever. But yeah, I'm obviously proud of this program and what he's got going and how tight knit they are, and I think that will pay dividends as we move through the year.
And maybe slight lesson in patience when things weren't exactly built immediately when he got here, and now in year 3, ground feels a lot more stable, right?
Yeah, and I know he's talked about that. He's talked about that with me. Wes has talked about that with Coach Sat. It's that first year is tough. When they're Bearcats, but they're not players that you recruited, and you're trying to get everybody to mesh and come together, and that's not always easy to do. And so it's just a challenge. That first year is typically a challenge for coaches, no matter what it is, so I think Wes felt that and has expressed that to Coach Satterfield that first year is really, really difficult. But you're right. I mean, eventually you get a bunch of guys believing in you and your program and what you're about, and then that's when you can do special things. But Brent, I didn't answer your other question about the MTE, and I want to, because I think I was on here a few weeks ago talking about it. We tried something different.
Yeah.
I'm just real honest. The concept was, let's let some people that don't get to usually sit in lower bowl buy tickets. I think that first night I was actually out at a meeting, but I think that first night went fairly well. Mm-hmm. The second one was a Bengals game, right up against the Bengals game, as they're trying to fight to stay in the playoff picture, and that's a hard thing to do in this town, and so it wasn't as well attended. But I don't know. We'll do a full look and decide if that's something we'd ever do again. I'll have to decide on that. But I did get a lot of feedback from people that had never sat down there. I got some feedback from people that sat on the front row, that paid $80 to sit on the front row and go experience that club and eat and drink and all those good things. And they were blown away by the experience. So, I think some good, some bad out of that MTE, but it created some confusion. So I think if we do it again, we've got to just message it better.
So one of my best friends is one of the chefs that work over in that club that you talked about. What can we arrange on maybe trading out my press pass for one of those bracelets for like 30 minutes pregame?
Yeah,
that stuff is good.
I'm telling you, it's
good.
It is good. I think.
What are they chefing up?
We've done shrimp,
carving stations.
Yeah, we've done all kinds of stuff. We did breakfast tacos one game recently, and Yeah, good desserts. Like it's pretty high level. And then we expanded it to if you've noticed, we've been able to take it out in the hallway and open these two double doors up and got a lot of compliments on that because it was starting to get tight in there. And so that experience down in that club is pretty special. I think our Champions Club has done a better job food wise as well. I've gotten some good feedback there. We're always trying to make it better. It's always a challenge to add new things and do it the right way. But at the same time, you always got to have your conies as well and your go-to. So it's a balance there. But so we continue to try to obsess over our customers. I believe that if we fail, if we miss, I need to know about it. Don't be shy. I know you won't be, but I do try to fix things if we don't do things well. And I'm constantly talking to our staff, Anthony DeFino and others, about let's make sure we continue to obsess over our customers and make it a great experience. Win, lose, we've got to have top level, Big 12 level experience for our fans.
Press box food took a big step up this year, so thank you for that.
All right, that's good. We've got somebody handling our Airmark account now that's really doing a nice job and cares a lot, and that's where it starts. If that person cares, then everything else tends to work pretty well.
We felt the care.
Good.
Anything else you want to get to? We've taken up a considerable chunk of your time. Is there anything else happening that you maybe want the fan base to catch up on?
Yeah, I mean, I think about away game tickets for Big 12 basketball games. We've had some questions about that. To get those, you go to the site of the team. So if you're trying to get to Kansas or Oklahoma State or whoever it is, you got to go there and buy those tickets if you're going to travel to see the team in the Big 12. And then the other one is the Big 12 championship in Kansas City. I mean, it is going to be a special championship. This year, obviously with Texas and Oklahoma, but then next year with the 4 new schools coming in, that's going to be a high level ticket and a lot of great basketball. So I'd encourage people to look into that. You buy them through us. It is a points related pecking order. So we will use UCAT's points. And so it's going to be important that you understand where you're at in terms of UCAT's points, and we'll help you. If you have any questions at all, you can call the ticket office and they'll walk you through the point system and really help you out.
I know there's a lot of people looking forward to going to the Fog in January. Have you been, and any advice?
Yeah, I never have been. Actually,
are you going?
But I'm going. I caught Travis Goff, the AD at Kansas, before the football game. I said we're coming and we're going to need tickets. And so he said he'd do everything he could for us to help us out. So we're going to try to do everything we can to secure some tickets. We'll probably take a donor plane out there. But for the everyday fan that isn't on that donor plane, go to the Kansas athletics department and work through their system. And let's try to get as many Bearcats as we can into Fog Island. It's going to be pretty special.
How many media passes do you think they'll let me get? Because I think we're planning on taking a Bearcat Journal van and driving to Kansas, and it might be all of us.
I'll push for as many media passes. We're gonna use media passes. We're gonna use, whatever it is, what a Ticketmaster, whatever we can do on the secondary market. We're gonna buy them all up because I think we're gonna have a lot of fans that will want to partake in a game at Fog Island. So, luckily there Kansas didn't go anywhere. So if you miss them this year, catch them again, maybe next year or the year after. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities to get there. So if you can't do it this year, do it later. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of great basketball venues. Oklahoma State's got a great basketball venue. I know Texas Tech packs it in. Kansas State, really underrated. The Octagon of Doom at Kansas State. When I had my 2 twin boys, we had this thing that we shaped as an octagon, and we put this soft floor down, and I called it the Octagon of Doom after that Kansas State thing. Battle Royale and that thing. But there's Iowa State is, I mean, there's some people that say that that's the best
Atmosphere, yeah.
in the country at Iowa State. So, in West Virginia, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Can't wait.
I know.
And
could be
until you
exciting.
actually get to the week of the games and you go, ooh, they got what three opponents this week?
Well, that stretch with Kansas on that Monday, it's like boom, da boom, da boom, da boom, and then Kansas's big Monday, which I mean, no one's complaining. That's just high-end basketball week in and week out. So
we do all have to remember that you don't have to win every game in the Big 12, right? I mean, you go 500 in that league and you're in pretty darn good shape. So, let's protect Fifth Third, win those home games, and then find a way to steal a couple on the road, and we'll be in great shape.
Amen.
All right,
John, your jump man looks nice. By the way,
yeah, thank you.
You made the switch to basketball.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah, I did. I officially did. I started digging into my closet a little bit. So I got – hey, real quick, I was with Coach Maryweather recently and got to see them play. Yeah. They had a big 20-point victory over Kentucky. Yep. Their 3 losses are to top-ranked Louisville, top-ranked Colorado, and top-ranked NC State. I think they're all in the top 15 maybe. So that program's playing hard, and you get a chance to support our women's basketball program, please do so.
That was a loaded Paradise Jam that they were in, man.
Yeah, it really was. So, but anyway, so she's doing a nice job and has some nice pieces, and so support that program too. But
Abby Jump's dad was a coach on my city championship baseball team and also my 6th grade teacher. So I've literally known Abby since she was a toddler.
She's got the best swag of anybody in the department.
Oh,
she goes old school. She goes old school Bearcat stuff, and she buys all this vintage stuff. She had on a pair of Canes. Anybody know what Canes are? K-A.
Yeah.
She had on this pair of Canes and had all these Bearcat stickers on them, and I mean, so she's drip.
First rate. Her dad did not have that kind of style.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was an excellent teacher and coach.
Yeah. Well, she's a great person. That's a great staff, a fun staff to be around. They really like each other and work hard. So. And
Abby Owings, one of her teammates, was one of Kelly's primary nurse for 4 months.
She's high level too. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Appreciate you. Thanks, John. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
I mean, Wes Miller last week, 50 minutes. Athletic Director John Cunningham this week, 57 minutes.
What the hell's going on?
What next week? What are we going to do? Have a first-team All-American?
Taylor Swift.
Former first-team All-American on the show?
Can't wait.
We're going to have Aaron Taylor Swift exclusive interview.
Just the 2 of them.
Just gonna play this game without Ryan this week.
We definitely need to get T Swift on the show somehow, some way, if that's possible.
Go ahead, Aaron. My bad. Let's get a timestamp on that bad boy.
Dang, Royer. They sued you out, man.
Yeah.
Let's get a timestamp on this bad boy. Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. They service over 150 restaurants with weekly, low minimum next-day deliveries. They provide a wide range of food service products from to-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, and much more. They also have cleaning and restroom supplies for all your janitorial needs. Call Nick, 513-470-2029, and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases.
Boom. I was gonna make a funny about. I was gonna say, so does your UCats points decide how close you get to be to the stage when DJ Shaq Diesel's up there? Blair, I stayed away from it.
It's a good thing you didn't.
That
was good discretion.
I could have gotten a smile out of him. I was going to ask him as well if tonight he's going to have gumbo or if he's going to have peach quesadillas. Wow, how about that? But stay away from that.
I just hope everybody's happy. There's finally some type of answer on the Ring of Honor, and we can stop hearing about it on the board.
You have been obsessed with that Ring of Honor.
No, it always comes up on the boards. Why don't you guys ever ask about it? Or on Twitter, why doesn't anybody ask about it? Well, it's finally been asked about, and I think we got a pretty good answer.
30 Waters, I agree, man. Make a funny was not the intent. It was the intent. It just didn't land. So make a fool, maybe.
Hey, look,
does that make you happy?
I don't think he backed away from anything.
No.
I think we asked him the questions people were looking for him to be asked, and I don't think he ran and hid.
No.
No. I think it was very straightforward.
Yeah. Football's hard to talk about right now. There's no doubt about that. And Royer, obviously, you've got the former player moniker next to your name. You've got a lot of different things going into it where you do have a pulse on things and you do have a connection deeper than the fan base and whatnot. And I thought what John said was pretty damn spot on about how hey, he sees all that. And when the guy at the very top sees all that means a lot of things. And it should mean a lot of things to former players and fans as well.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I really want to get his perspective on what he's saying to the coaches, because you're always playing, you're trying to like dish out a message to the fans, because the fans are the ones who scream the loudest, make the most noise, and they could say a lot of ridiculous things sometimes, but kind of rallying around Satterfield, like how is he helping him navigate this? Because he's in a bad spot. You come into a program and you're even though he's not doing this, but to the fans, it might make it look like he's just bombing the program right now, like going 3-9 in his first year. It's hard for people to have forward vision. So I was really trying to see if he's really done anything in terms of kind of righting the ship for Satterfield, or like giving him tips or kind of giving him a message, because
there's only one thing you can give him right now, Ryan. NIL money. NIL money. That's the only thing that's the only thing coaches are worried about right now. Forget all of that stuff. Can I start the portal season with XXX in NIL dollars? And if the answer is yes, then you're supporting your coach. And if the answer is no, then they get fired, like Tom Allen, who on the way out says, hopefully for the next coach, Indiana embraces NIL.
God bless John, because he could go get him a fat stack of cash and it doesn't mean shit. He could go out and get every name, but they could still fucking lose 3 games again. Just kind of like we didn't
go look at Texas A&M. They spent all the money on all of the things. National championship coach, number 1 recruiting class. And where did it get them? 2 years later, Jimbo Fisher is fired. And they owe him $76 million to go away.
Yep. Sounds good. But
sign me up all day.
We got a little dumbed down version of it with our team, because not that we had like an A-list NIL poll, but we had some names. We had some guys who were like, well, this seems to address these problems, or this problem at different position groups. And it kind of, it all kind of shit the bed when push came to shove during the year. And John was alluding to that with depth, because you can only fill so many roles. You can't fill 50 spots in the transfer portal. Like you need like 40 to 50 solid players on a team, because you can't just have 1 and 2 deep. You got to have 3 deep at sometimes. You got to have a stout special teams with
look no farther than the NFL. 53 players. That's what the NFL has deemed. You better have 53 good players every Sunday.
Yeah, they're ready to go. It's not like you don't have guys like me who are like 4th string linebacker and like 2 special team unit guys like that. It's different.
And Bearcat legend. God damn it.
Yeah, don't forget that part. But it just shows that you need depth. Like you can't just have 20, because that was something Fickle staff really caught on with we need 22 guys on offense and 22 guys on defense, and
1A
guys
and 1B.
And then there sometimes their crazy asses go, we need a C, we need a 1C here, just like stupid shit like that. But it makes sense, because Sammy goes down. You need 2 guys. You need at least 2 guys behind him. shit, you need probably 3, because what if one guy gets hurt? What if 2 guys aren't playing well? What if someone else goes down somewhere else in the secondary and you got to rotate shit around?
Well, yeah,
And
and I mean, it's a play-by-play basis too. I mean, like the 1 or 2 series that the backup is out, now you do have that third stringer in or something along those lines. That's when the opposing team could exploit that and get a quick touchdown or 2. And also when it comes to the NFL, as we're seeing across the league, it's hard to find a good quarterback. And in college football, it's very quarterback driven. If you're not the elite top of the top teams that, obviously you're built everywhere else, you need to have that elite quarterback. So I actually have been pretty not surprised, but kind of just, it is good to see how candid first Scott Satterfield was about the portal when asked about it. He brought it up about 3 different times in the post-game presser on Saturday after the game. And then, John right here, I mean, that's 2 people, like, people are just embracing what it is. You could have some sort of a view about it and be like, yeah, it stinks that this is what's happening in college athletics, but it seems like it's been more of they're embracing it, and they're embracing the need for NIL on top of it. So it's gonna get crazy here. Obviously today's been pretty wild, but I imagine all this week leading up to December 4th, it's going to continue to just get even more crazy when it comes to not only just what's happening here at UC, but across the entire college football landscape. So
I like how you mentioned quarterback, because the portal is kind of a good spot for a quarterback. We didn't get very lucky in terms of potential. Landing Emory Jones, I think the potential was there, but execution didn't turn out to be. But I think it's the portal with quarterback wise. I think you can get guys that have good experience, and as long as you can feed the offense into them, I think the portal is a great way to go get a 5th-year quarterback looking for a 6th year, or a 4th-year quarterback looking for a 5th year at a smaller school, and he wants to make more money and stuff like that. I like the quarterback position and the portal, but sometimes when it comes to, position players like on the O-line or in the secondary, when you don't have a lot of tape and there's not a lot to judge off of unless you get them into a game, that's when it gets kind of like, well, do we want to build a whole freaking defensive backfield in the portal? Probably not. Maybe one or 2 solid guys that could come in and compete, but it's not going to be ideal if we're just looking to fill. I feel like in college football now, the offensive defensive line is huge, and you were mentioning the quarterback, but the secondary, man, the way just as important as the quarterback position is, you need a secondary that can adapt to the offensive schemes that they're throwing around nowadays is nuts. They're finding ways to beat everything. So you need a secondary where you got guys across the board that can cover, guys that can tackle, guys that can block the feet, because everything's RPO, everything's finding seams, getting mismatches. So the secondary play is changing a lot.
Here's the reality, Ryan, and this is what you're getting at, I think. In football in 2023, in college football, there are 2 things you can't be bad at: throwing the ball and defending the pass. And this team was bad at both of them. And when that happens, it tends to tank everything else, because it makes it impossible to defend if they know 3rd and 7 doesn't even matter. Like, we're going to have a guy wide open over the middle on 3rd and 7. So whatever we do on 1st and 2nd down doesn't really mean shit. Like, we've watched the tape. We know what these guys are. 3rd and 7, we're going to convert. And then the first time they hang their heads, we're going to jump on them, and it's going to roll downhill. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Because you can't, even as solid as our running game is, like, having a solid running game is like, 150 yards to 200. Yeah, you do that. That's great. But you can't keep up with if you're letting up 300 passing yards, no matter how good your run attack is and how shitty your offense passing is. Like, if you can't defend it, you don't stand a chance. Exactly what you're saying.
Run games are built to play with the lead. We've talked about this all season. That's what this team was good at. It's what they couldn't accomplish. When they did accomplish it, the one time they did, they won the game. If you're playing from behind and you can't pass, whoo, you're never going to
Recipe
catch
for
them.
disaster.
You're never going to catch them.
I think the whole fan base saw some pretty eye-opening things as far as stats that are crazy, but maybe in the grand scheme of things, like what you guys are kind of getting at, really don't mean too much. Like time of possession, you might as well just throw that out, and overall plays ran, probably throw that out as well. I think explosives, and I'm sure this is what you're really starting to see the staff is probably going to want to hone in on as well. Explosive plays is something that they probably want to get established because I mean you can finish top 10 in the country in rushing, but if you're running 70 yards and then getting stopped at the 5 and having to kick a field goal, then that's not good.
Yeah,
In the
you're
end, it's
absolutely right.
not at all comparative than someone hitting a 50-yard touchdown pass.
Explosive plays is a key metric that both offense and defense keep track of. For the defense, you want to keep them under a certain amount, and for the offense, you want to get a certain amount. And on defense, you want to, like we called them, havoc plays. Quarterback pressures, sacks, fumbles forced, fumbles recovered, picks, PBUs, and keeping track of those plays, because those are the difference makers. You could play solid defense the whole game, but you're gonna need to cause some havoc on the offense too, because you need to make a difference. You need to find a way to get the ball and win the turnover battle. That's what's gonna get you over the hump, and you see that across the board, all across college football. Every defense and offense are honing in on those things.
Which I mean, Chad, you mentioned it coming into the season, the the bright spot being the defensive line, but also kind of the tough spot being, can they pressure the quarterback? They're really good at kind of clogging things up in the middle and making it tough for, certain aspects of opposing offenses. But in the end, we saw this group didn't quite get after the quarterback the way that we all hoped coming into the year. They didn't quite
At all.
at all. Yeah. That had a connection to then the lack of turnovers. I don't think they recovered a fumble in the final, some odd games throughout the Big 12. It just
13, 12.
Yeah, it was just it was bad.
I meant to go look at this today and I forgot. It had to be 4 or 5 games in Big 12 play that they didn't have they didn't have to create a turnover. They didn't get a sack. Yeah. You're not going to win in football in 2023. If you can't sack the quarterback, you can't turn the other team over. Eventually, the dam is going to break, no matter how good your defenders are. Fundamentally, guys are in the right gaps, and they weren't all year. But I'm just saying, even if you're great fundamentally, if you don't create those havoc plays, you're done. It's just so much harder. The margin for error becomes so thin when, guess what? Even if the other team got 2 sacks and 1 interception, they set you back twice behind the sticks and they took the ball away and you didn't do any of that. And that shit adds up. It doesn't feel like it does in a 1-game kind of window, but extrapolated over 4, 5, 6 games like we saw where they didn't have the advantage in either of those categories. You can't win consistently. You can't.
Yeah, and I think offenses they saw what we did versus Pitt, and it's kind of like, all right, we're just going to fucking send the house, and Pitt had a really bad quarterback, which kind of saved our bad defensive backfield that we discovered throughout the year. So offenses are like, all right, we'll just get this ball out. They're not going to be strapped up on our receivers, at least across the board. We could find 1 or 2 quick options to kind of fight this pressure and this clogging that our defensive line was good at. And it was the perfect counter in a lot of ways. You saw it week in and week out. And then it might have kind of like staggered us back into more of a passive approach, because we kind of discovered, we don't really have the coverage capabilities that we need to be throwing these Brian Brown pressures that he's known for and his defenses. And therefore we weren't getting those those havoc plays.
Yeah, I mean they finished 115th in the country in sacks on the year. It just and Tom
That's
Frank
crazy.
in the chat has it's a talent problem, which now you're going to see with a full off season of going out and trying to find pieces out of the portal, getting the incoming freshman class, getting players on the team that are coming back the next season. You're going to have the ability to put together a little bit more firm of a roster that you expected. I mean, today is the 1 year. Chad and Ryan, do you know what today? Chad, you probably know. Ryan, do you know what today is the 1 year anniversary of?
Luke Fickell.
Yeah,
At Wisconsin.
it's only been one calendar year. That's mind-boggling to think about. And now is the time where with a full off season, you heard Satterfield in the press conference after the game. He said, we're gonna dive right into it. We're gonna go all out, try and get everything in line. And you know what? This will be a time where you see, okay, is it the certain pieces just weren't in place? And it might take more than just this one off season, but you're going to start to see the pieces that they do target and had more time to target come and be on the squad. So I think that's something that definitely will be something to track as the whole entire transfer portal season goes on and leading into the off season as well.
Yep.
But I don't know. We could do a deep dive on the entire year, but I think like we were all singing the same tune towards the end of each game.
I'm ready to be done with it
and wrap up. Yeah, I mean, Ryan, I guess I can ask you, obviously being a former player that you are and kind of knowing what that feeling is inside of the locker room and inside of the program or whatnot. But the transfer portal is real. I think this is going to be the one off season where we see it kind of blow up college football, because it seemed like people were kind of tiptoeing around the thought. And then this past year, you saw a lot of quarterbacks in general go to certain teams and kind of show where they can, hey, I can go here and get immediate playing time and actually make a name for myself, or certain players that decide they want to move on as well. What's your thought when you see these names entering the portal off of the team this year, and kind of just, I don't know, everything in general? It seems like it's going to be getting pretty wild here within the upcoming couple of days and current time.
Yeah, it's crazy. The thing is that kind of sketches me out is you never really know why a player's leaving. It's going to be hard. Like some of these guys, it's like, what's the dirty laundry? Are you money driven? Did you not get along with your coaches? Is it you problem? Is it your coach's problem? What kind of player are we getting? Because, when you want your best players to be your best leaders, and it's hard to go out and just buy talent and expect it's going to fit. And that's like my only concern. So there's a lot of guys that have a lot of snaps and they sound like it sounds good. What's their price tag? What kind of people are they? It's hard to sift through all those things. I thought Emery, we got him here. He had potential. I thought he was a great dude, just struggled because, he had a guy who transferred twice. He took advantage of that portal twice, and it kind of, some might say it might have, really ruined his career, not because he wasn't talented, but just like the adjustments of different offensive coordinators, schemes, confidence. It's considering all those things and different players that we have. It's just hard. It's crazy. It's like the NFL free agency, but worse, because there's more people and less identification for them. So I don't really know what to think about what to expect. It's going to be crazy, man. Today was crazy, seeing the guys going that are going, and you're like, well, I wonder how crazy is it going to be crazy disappointing or crazy exciting to see who we bring in? You have no idea.
Yeah. Chad, your pulse on kind of the day. Obviously, this is expected. I mean, you see it all around the country, really. It's not quite just like everything's going wrong, everyone's entering the portal. It's something that is just college football now.
Well, it's also exactly outside of one player. Jeff, I disagree with you on it. There was so far, there has been one entry into the portal that I'm confident the staff would have preferred to have back.
Right.
And that's Miles Montgomery. And to no fault of Miles, I understand Miles believes he's RB1 somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be Corey Kiner here. Corey won the job. So does that say bad things about Miles? No. It says he has an ambition and something he wants to accomplish, and he's going out and trying to achieve that.
Right.
More power to him. That's how this works now. It's far more transactional than it's ever been. So you got to get your mind around there are going to be transactions. Just like there were a bunch of guys that are in the portal right now from today that did not surprise me. What have I talked about for weeks? If it's a guy that is from the previous regime and is not on the 2 deep, it's time to probably figure out, is it going to work out here?
Right.
And if you're going to play, it's probably going to be somewhere else. I mean, Ryan, how many of your teammates do you remember that were on the 3 deep after 2 or 3 years that moved up, that made it to first string? That doesn't happen often.
No, it's not, because they bring in guys that they want to be ready to be a 2 right away. So it's just a constant evolution of each position group. But it's a practice. They did that to Fickle staff, did that to the Tuberville staff when they pulled up.
Right.
It's just kind of how it is. It's like, well, this is the conversation always, like, you can stay, but about a 99% chance you won't play, or you can transfer. The decision's yours. And
Right.
guys can read the writing on the wall, and they say, all right, well, I can either fucking be a crazy person and stay and try to prove them wrong, or I can just bet on myself and leave. So that's why most people are going to leave, because it's a losing battle most of the time. Very uphill. As bad as it sounds, as much as it sucks sometimes.
It's transactional. It's business. There's billions of dollars on the line. Everybody's making money now. Like, I don't want to be like, I'm allowed to be an asshole to the players because they're making money that's not coming from me, because it's not, or if they're like, I paid $50 into the collective, so that player owes me something. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm getting at. But what I'm getting at is, if college sports is going to continue to be your thing, your brain has to shift a little, because the entire landscape has shifted. And if you're not, like, I get the people that are like, I'm not okay with it. Like, I think less of college sports now. Yeah, it's very much for the players, for the schools, it's been professional for a long time. For the players, they're finally starting to get their cut on the back end, and people want to lose their minds about it. But I don't know, man. I just getting worked up over it and seeing, like, a transaction happen and, like, going to your Twitter feed and freaking out. I don't get it. It's where we're at. Would you like to keep all of the best players? Yeah. Would you like to tell all the crappy players, or the guys that you don't think are going to contribute, to get lost? I'm sure you'd like to do that too. It goes both ways.
Yeah. It's a topic that's going to continue to keep unraveling as the off season progresses. So it's where we're at. That's where we're at. So it's just and it sucks because, like Stu mentions, Justin Watley entering the portal. That's a guy that I remember doing his commitment article, and it was a guy, Chad, when I was first starting. You and I were going back and forth about a lot. It's just so it's things like that, like guys that go in and do what they can and whatnot, and so you just hope them the best of luck, and you kind of move on about it. So it's something where it's in the hands of the staff for the most part to build a team that they think will have the most success on the field. So in the end, you've got to wait and you've got to see and you've got to just trust the process in the way. That's where we are in college football and college sports in general in 2023. I mean, you saw Wes Miller took some big key additions on the basketball court.
Top of the roster, baby.
And
top of the
right.
roster.
Right.
Go get top of the roster dudes.
And people that can mix
Don't just
with
get dudes.
Yeah, people that can mix with returning players as well. And now all of a sudden you've got a team. So it's a lot different with football just because of the numbers game, but when you break it down, it's not too far off. Just got to go out there, target, and get. And luckily, the recruiting staff that has been assembled they are on top of it in every single way that they possibly can be. So it's going to be a fun thing to watch as they go to work. The off season is not only the time to develop kids, but it's the time to grow a team as well. And that's what they're all going to be locked in to do. So,
and here's one thing I think that will be long-term different that fans will notice with this recruiting staff.
Mm-hmm.
They are not recruiters,
right?
By and large. Like they're recruiters, but they by trade, by nature, they're talent evaluators. They're scouts. They're people with a million ties into the scouting world. Mm-hmm. It's a different approach. I think Chad Bowden, which worked while he was here, and Pat and Max did a great job recruiting while they were here. But they were recruiters. Like if you had to pick what they were best at, it was the interaction,
and
the rate, that side of it. That's not to say that these guys aren't good at that. It is to say their background is scouting.
It's got,
and that's going to be the foundation of what they do. And when that's the case, maybe you see a kid that's a composite 4-star, and you put on the tape and you go, nope. Either that's not what we see in terms of his rating, or that's not what we see in terms of the other stuff that we find out off the field, whatever. But there is a difference when it's a scouting background. And I don't know if it'll be on this podcast just because of the days, but Zach Grant's going to join us, right? Either on the night of signing day or the day after signing day. On the BCJ pod to kind of give everybody a better feel for where they're at, like what their process is, what they're looking for. So look, we're doing everything we can to get you guys all of the information on these shows. Mm-hmm. Everything we can. So hang with us. It's gonna be a fun couple months.
Well, and guess what? Next Monday is December 4th. On top of having a really awesome guest to talk about the exciting week that is ahead on the basketball court, we're going to also be able to dive in full depth of names that Cincinnati is connected with and whatnot, because that's December 4th is the official opening of the transfer portal. So that will be the show where if you want to hear this, that, and the other, then lock in on that one. But yeah, for now, it's going to be a week long of.
Well, this is like this. What did I call it? It's like this is the legal contact, the legal illegal contact period, right?
Yeah.
But the NBA just decided we're not going to make you wait until that day because everybody on that day, all the deals were done. So now there's a legal tampering period that leads up to the tampering period.
Golly. Well, and so Chad, as you glance over to the chat, I'm sure you can't really reply to any of those questions. So just a wait and see approach until next week. Yeah.
I think Brendan Sorsby will be somebody absolutely that UC looks at. It makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Now I will say this, when I've been told many a times this is going to happen. A lot of the times it does happen,
right?
And some of the times it doesn't happen. And I haven't been told anything like that on Sorsby, but there's going to be guys that when they first hit the portal are like, ooh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then somebody else jumps in or whatever, and it doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. Or that player finds the right level and it's not you. It's
Or team B says, oh, didn't even notice him at first.
right.
Let's pony up and go get the guy. But
there's a lot of work that goes into the next couple of weeks, filtering through what's real, what's not real. I guess that's what I'm getting at is like, you hear a lot of things. If I reported all the things I hear, my reputation would not be nearly as good as it is because a whole freaking bunch of them would be wrong.
Yeah,
you'd be like a baseball player. You'd be hitting like somewhere in the 250s, 280s.
I'd at least be like a 330 guy.
Ooh.
No, you're putting yourself in Hall of Fame. You're putting yourself in Hall of Fame numbers. That's just reporting everything that you hear.
Slap hitter, no power, but a lot of singles.
Ichiro Suzuki, okay.
Right.
Ichiro Brendelski.
Tony Gwynn.
Trivia question for you, Aaron.
Here we go.
Or
Trivia.
Brent. Ooh, I want this one to go to Brent.
Okay.
Tony Gwynn trivia.
Okay, ready.
Did Tony Gwynn have A, more assists as a college point guard, or B, more strikeouts
in the MLB
as a Major League Baseball player?
A, assists in college basketball.
That's correct. As the point guard at San Diego State,
I saw that.
Tony Gwynn had more assists as a college point guard
than
he did in a 20-year career.
He was a hooper
in Major League Baseball. I waited on Tony Gwynn at a Radio Shack one time. I think I've told that story before.
Good little dap up.
No, I just heard.
It's funny because you guys both in your younger years were, small and athletic, and then
we got that. No, you'll never be in a sports nerd like Tony Gwynn has a very distinct voice, and I was helping out at the downtown, like the Carew Tower Radio Shack that day, and you're just running through people, right, ringing them out, getting them out. And all of a sudden, he dropped a bunch of like cables and cords for his video setup in his room, and he spoke, and like everything for me just was like, motherfucker, Tony Gwynn. Wait a second, and he could see that like right away, and he gave me like let's keep this. Mm-hmm. Don't freak out. It was funny.
Love it. Should we timestamp this little football portion?
I'm done with it. I mean, we're going to have all off season to do this, right?
I agree.
Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. Quick Paper services over 150 restaurants with weekly low minimum next day deliveries. They provide mostly disposable restaurant supplies, to-go containers, cups, pizza boxes, to-go bags, can liners, napkins. They've been open since 2009 and are one of the largest minority-owned companies in the city. Call Nick 513-470-2029 to get 20% off your first month of purchases.
Boom. And I'm going to double down on that because there's a watch show tomorrow for the game against Howard. Doors open 6 p.m. 7 p.m. is the tip. Ryan Geist, Cincy Rains, Cincy Light, lock it in. Bearcat Journal. But if you're driving there to the spot, or you're getting an Uber there, and your Uber driver says, "Oh, I've been having some trouble with my brakes recently," tell him to go to Danco Transmission and Auto Care, please. Tell him to say that to talk to Danco Joe, and tell your Uber driver, leave me a 5-star review, please. Let him know, hey, I sent you. That's right, Ryan Royer. Say your name's Ryan Royer and say that you sent him to Danco Transmission and Auto Care from the BBP, and he'll get himself 10% off next service, $10 off next fixing, next oil change, if you will. Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Love you, Joe. Howard tomorrow, road game. Spread 10.5. Ken Palm's got an 80-68 score prediction. Ken Palm, the same website that Wes Miller says he doesn't give much credence to until we're 10 games in at the very least, has the 5-0 Bearcats, 35th in the country. Ken Palm, yes. Also has a plethora of Big 12 teams within the top 35 with Cincinnati. So it's going to be a fun conference. But outside of that, Howard tomorrow, first true road game with this team. Howard's a team that, they lost to Georgia Tech kind of in a last-second scenario. Have a handful of losses as well, but a couple of wins thrown in there. Not necessarily a team to get too scared about. 230th in Ken Palm. They've only beaten Hampton, Boston University, and Mount St. Mary's, but it is a true road game. Guys, thoughts heading into that one? What are you excited to see? What are you wanting to or hoping that is the outcome other than a win? But first true road game, that's something you got to have at least a little bit of a thought heading into it.
I am most excited that they moved this game onto ESPN Plus instead of just being on Howard TV.
Right. Yeah. It was not sounding who's going to be interesting for the very least. Especially at a place like Ryan, guys. I'm sure that's a situation where you'd have to do an HDMI plug-in thing, and you're like, okay, we have it on this one TV here.
In the
I'll
year
have to huddle around it.
In the year 2023 of my Lord and Savior, Jesus, what are we doing with this game only on Howard TV? Well
this
done.
This is what we created in sports, Aaron, where the haves have all the money and the have-nots do their games on Howard TV.
Right.
Cool. Throw them a freaking bone here. Well done on whoever got it done. Just well done. I'm happy.
I'm just happy
Very
it's not
happy.
on Flow Sports TV or whatever that was.
I mean, I feel like Howard TV would have been the equivalent of that as far as broadcast,
No,
without having to pay the $5 or whatever the Flow Sports cost was.
It's like $20.
It's stupid. The whole
I
thing
bought
about
it.
that was, of course you did.
We all bought it. It was
Quigley.
still stupid.
No, you could still illegally stream it. Is what you could do.
You're a criminal.
You are a criminal.
Okay. I'm not certain what they were doing. Making us pay $20 for that stream was also not criminal.
Whoa. Was that your door, Aaron?
No.
But yeah, it is on ESPN Plus, 7 p.m. tip. Aside from that comment, Aaron, anything else you guys? First true road game. That's got to be the main.
That's the big thing for me. Yeah. Let's see how they play on the road.
Yep, hoping they kind of keep that cohesiveness I was alluding to in the past couple of weeks. I felt like they were playing with, and I felt like they have that good bond. I feel like that culture kind of really developed well over the offseason, and now throwing Aziz in there, getting him another game under his belt, seeing how he fits in and try to help. I'm excited, and I'm hoping that he can kind of establish the presence again and, really take another step forward and getting back to his game and getting solidified as our big time presence inside.
I'm all for another 30-2 run. I like those. Those were fun.
That means
a
good
good time.
things.
Those are
That's
damn
a good
fun.
time.
Ryan, did you get to watch that Georgia Tech game at all?
No, I was back home. I was hanging out with the family. I wasn't into too much TV.
Throw on the replay whenever you will feel like it. It is
Ryan.
just
All you have
half.
to do, go to the start of the second half, and in 10 minutes you'll be done.
And have fun.
And yeah, you'll be like, "What the hell just happened?" Because that's exactly what it felt like.
Maybe check
in the arena.
Aziz's first handful of minutes.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the first half. But yeah, I mean it's hard to remember it having that much fun.
It was like, Ryan, the start of the second half was like 37-5.
That sounds like some good basketball.
The first 8 minutes of the second half, 9 minutes, and they scored 30 in 6 minutes, which is almost humanly impossible to do.
It was phenomenal. But what if I told you one of the featured players on Howard's team graduated in the class of 2016 out of high school? Royer.
Yep, Ohio right?
Royer, when did you graduate high school?
17.
This guy graduated the year before you. And he's
Really?
from Columbus, Ohio.
Ryan's still got a year of eligibility.
I know. I got some time in me.
Seth Towns. Do you remember that name, Royer?
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, because he was a big name in the city. Was
Yeah.
he was it Gahanna? Is that where he went?
I think so.
I
What,
can't
what
remember.
high school?
Yeah.
Let's take a look. Well, because I know
he might
he
have been teamed up with Nick Ward. They
yeah.
had a nasty team.
He was. He was.
Yeah.
They
And they had us
played high
scrimmaging their
school
asses.
and they played high school and AAU together.
I think Seth might not have been in the scrimmage. I think he must have been doing something.
Northland. It was Northland.
Oh,
Yep.
Northland. Yep, that's what it was. Because they were
Yep.
the other powerhouse.
Yeah.
They're a city league team. They dominated the city league.
That's where the other big kid went too. Sullinger.
Sullinger went
Went to
there,
North.
and I think another. Who was it?
I mean, they were always loaded.
Yeah, they had another dude that went there around that time. They were good as that was some good basketball back then. Columbus had a lot of
Northland
good
High
teams.
School, man. So Royer, he's going to be playing against the Bearcats tomorrow. That's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, because he was at Ohio State. He got hurt one year.
Harvard, then Ohio State.
Yeah.
Now
He's been in college. This is year 8, I think, and he's only played 4 seasons, or 3.5, 4 seasons because he's been hurt. Like that's how he's still around, is he's gotten like 3 medical red shirts to keep playing.
So he's the dude from Memphis, essentially.
No, because that dude actually he didn't start playing college basketball until he was like 21. DeAndre Williams. He worked in a factory or something. He was a grown ass man, and then somebody talked him into playing college basketball.
So he pulled a BYU.
Yeah. He went on a Memphis mission, which means you work in a factory and you work your ass off.
Yeah. I mean, Towns had stats
Greg
from
Burke went
the
to Northland.
2016-2017 season, the 2017-2018 season, then didn't play until the 2021 season, then didn't play again until this year.
Right.
So it's a wild road that he has towed. But yeah, he's going to be strapping it up tomorrow against the Trey
He's
Burke
actually
as well. Went to Northland.
7 kids. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Juwan Briggs style. Juwan's got a whole.
Briggs having his kid out there for the coin toss.
Yeah,
That was a good
I
moment.
loved it.
Good moment. Holt
Holt
Nailers
Nailers
thinks he's
thinks
in
he's
college.
in college.
That's good. That's a good one. Good job there, fake Danco. Good job.
Oh man.
But yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot of things obviously to watch when it comes to the basketball team. It's a big week to just win these games, get them under your belt, because then after that it's shootout week. So it's gonna be.
I mean, Howard's not going to be easy, and Florida Gulf Coast won't be easy. They're going to have to.
Yeah,
you're going to have to play well.
Florida Gulf Coast played IU really well at IU. IU does. I mean, they're not terrible, but yes, they are very good. But the thing about this team that's been awesome to watch is, you know, the Aziz effect kind of seemed pretty doggone immediate, where on the defensive side of things, you can just tell how much more they amp up the pressure on the outside, knowing that he's back there to protect them. Then offensively, he's always a loud threat, and he also finished some good, post moves and got defensive rebound offensive rebound stick back. I think you're starting to see that mesh and that kind of work out on the team as a whole. So excited that basketball is finally back tomorrow, and I've severely missed it, but it's here. Anything else basketball wise, guys? I don't want to gloss over it too much, but I know you guys had some shows from in between Wednesday to now, so not really.
It's been a little while, so
yeah.
We'll crank it back up tomorrow night with coverage, and then I think BCJ pod on Wednesday this week. But yeah,
Vic,
George and I will be doing the post game show, if you will.
There you go.
As we go live after that game's over. So,
Vic, you saw that Evan Maya rankings 21st.
yeah, Evan Maya himself showed up in my DMs and said, I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
you would be interested in this.
Yeah,
And I said, thank you, good sir.
Evan's been
appreciate
sending
you.
me those too. Yeah, I tweeted it out right away. 21st in the country, most usage. It's wild. So like Evan was sending me stuff when he only had like a couple hundred followers. Now he's like the
he's big.
second most analytical guy behind Ken Palm. Not really. Bart Torvik's up there as well, but
Yeah,
Evan's starting to get the mention from Ken Palm. It's like, go check out.
he's
Evan.
in the game. He's in the game.
He's in the game. Throw it to the guy. He's in the game. But 21st most valuable player right now, if you will, or most kind of important player, if you will. I imagine those numbers are going to fluctuate throughout the year. But you look at the other names on that listing, and it's just high-level players for high-level teams. And you add in Aziz and all these other pieces with Vic having that much of an importance, it's going to be an exciting team to watch throughout the year. And man, if they can continue to build momentum heading into the Big 12, then it's going to be an exciting first year in the Big 12 as well.
I agree.
Let's go ahead and time stamp it, and we can head into the mailbag.
Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. To-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, much more. They also have cleaning and restroom supplies for all your janitorial needs. Call Nick at 513-470-2029 and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases. Also, before we get into the mailbag,
yes, sir.
Brought to you by our good friends at Home Field Apparel. You've got until midnight. You got like 2 hours left to get 20% off the entire site. Code Black Friday, one word, all caps. Go to the Bearcat line. 1954 baseball championship shirt from Home Field Apparel. They have incredible hoodies, incredible joggers. You name it, Home Field has it in terms of your vintage Bearcat collection. So you hurry up. There's a bunch of you here. If you don't have your Home Field stuff now, 20% off. You got until midnight. Go. Run. Go.
Speaking of apparel, before we dive into the mailbag, I did want to give a shout out and congratulations to Keegan Nickerson of the BCJ here. Congratulations on the engagement this weekend, Keegan. And it was
so it looked like he made his proposal when the sun was up. Did you see the picture from All Park?
I did.
It was daylight out. You know what it wasn't?
You could have
know what
made
it wasn't at
to the
kickoff Saturday night? The sun was not out.
You're saying he could have made it to the game, possibly?
Technically, I mean, I'm not saying. I'm just saying, like he was available.
Although he did post a picture with all of his friends wearing BCJ hats, so
yeah, I'll give they get a little bit of a reprieve for that for repping the brand.
Yeah,
so
I didn't get the memo on vacation days for BCJ. When did we start getting those?
You really want to go there?
You got a vacation every day, baby.
You really want to go there?
I want to know about these vacation days.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. They're unpaid, just like Keegan's.
All right.
Mailbag.
Y'all came out strong today in the mailbag. I don't even understand. The season's over in football. What are we doing here? Maybe the biggest football mailbag we've had all season.
Royer has to answer all of them, every single one.
All right,
don't
let's
give him
go.
one that he cannot.
I did filter out some ridiculous ones. So
no, he has to answer those too.
No, I'm not
No.
reading them. So
I actually am kind of curious now if they're that bad.
We could have won the Miami, BYU, Baylor, and UCF game had all the stars aligned perfectly. We could have been 7-5 and bowl eligible. We would still hypothetically have all the same roster. issues just with better luck. Do you think when it is all said and done that going 3-9 and exposing our weaknesses as a program will better propel us forward than lucking into a 7-5 record and masking many of our issues as we approach the team culture, the portal, and recruiting in the future?
Losing is never good.
Yeah, I would rather be 7-5, but I do think
Every
it is an added embarrassment scale too. But I think I'm confident that the problems that would need to be addressed at 7-5 are the same problems that need to be addressed now and that will be addressed going forward. I don't think the coaches would just gloss over those. And if they would, then they won't be here very long. So I don't think that it makes a difference. I'd much rather be 7-5.
It's a wild situation, right, Ryan? Like, what do we know? We know that the previous staff got to the end of year one, and if the transfer portal would have been a thing, they'd have tossed James Wiggins into it.
Yeah.
And then you get to spring ball in year two, and all of a sudden they start to see that their
Wait a
preconceived
second.
notion on him maybe was a little different than what they had thought. And we talked to Brady about that. They thought he smiled too much. They didn't think he was serious. They thought he wasn't a dog. He didn't have that dog in him.
Mm-hmm.
And then guess what happened in year two is he won like 3 games by himself of this same variety that this team couldn't win, right?
Mm-hmm.
He put the dagger in people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Pluses and minuses of the portal.
Winning is always better, Killer V. You know that.
Yes.
Losses are never good.
We lost our lad.
I mean, we did. That's not great. I guess I'll.
And that's the mailbag. Brett, get us out of here.
Wait, did he bow out?
Fill in for him.
No, he got. I think it's internet or something on it.
The damn converter, the damn generator, going up and athened him.
What's more likely? UC Mark wants to know what's more likely to come through the portal: a starter level offensive tackle or a starter level linebacker. I would probably say linebacker because starter level offensive tackles are very expensive.
Yeah.
Not that starter level linebackers are cheap, but starter Power 5 level offensive tackles, everybody wants them. Nobody wants to give them up. And if they're in the portal, there's going to be a lot of people that want to pay them a lot of money to come play tackle for their team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in recent years, I think Cincinnati got pretty lucky with finding some gems.
Yeah.
But that was before the whole crazy
Dino
NIL,
Boyd.
before the crazy
Dino Boyd was a dog.
Dog. You knew that the first day the pads came on at Higher Ground. You're like,
Look,
oh shit.
We're like,
This
hold
guy's
up.
about his business.
Dino Boyd walked like honestly, it's one of the few times I've ever seen anything like it. Dino Boyd walked in sight unseen because they signed him late, and he arrived late, and he didn't go through summer workouts. He walked into Camp Higher Ground day one, like walked to left tackle and went.
You saw it on Fickle's face too. Like I
It's
remember
about that
after he
physical
did a
stuff.
one-on-one rep, one of the one-on-ones, and I just remember just like looking over at Fickle. Fickle was just, I was like, damn.
Right.
Like, all right,
dude,
we got
Majah,
something here.
I
I don't remember who it was, but he fucking bodied someone up in there. Like
That would have been
multiple
more Cortez.
Yeah, because that was my freshman.
That was year 2, right? That was year 2 when it was the Land of Misfit Toys with Garrett and him and Trout and
Trout. Yeah. Oh man, what
Morgan.
a guy. Morgan
yeah,
James.
Morgan
Yep.
James.
And
So that like Dino was though, man. Like he wasn't a man of many words, but if we put the helmet on to play left tackle, like I'd take him right now. If you told me Dino Boyd was at left tackle next year, I might predict an extra win or 2.
Oh yeah.
That dude was a beast.
Well, I think you kind of saw that this year as well, where obviously they got a little bit of a late start to it, but they added Wilder, who was kind of a bit of a I wouldn't say project, but kind of a JUCO type scenario. And then of course you had DeAndre Buford, who was probably more suited to be an interior offensive lineman if you really look back at it. But they had him out at tackle as well. So I think you definitely have a chance to bring someone in linebacker wise. I mean, you look at Ivan Pace, man. I mean, obviously there's the connection there with that, but
I just think there's a lot more linebackers that are going to be in the portal than high quality starting offensive tackles.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, though, like, look, man, you're going to tell me Jonathan Thompson's not a starting linebacker for this team next year?
And Dangle, yeah.
And Dingle, like, I think we know where that's headed.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a lot. It's a requirement of a long list. What would be a list of 10 younger guys you think we can't afford to lose? I mentioned bringing in top-end talent, replacing the bottom of the roster, while also keeping the freshmen and sophomore that shows talent and promise to be in the top of the 2-deep depth chart. Shimon Miles would have been on his list. I would potentially agree with that just on talent alone. But as we've talked about, Shimon had other plans, and Miles obviously felt similarly. So
should we each say 3? Should we say 3 each and see if we can't just roll on?
Yeah, okay. I'm not doing 10. That's entirely too many.
Yeah.
Aaron gets mad when we have these 50, 60-minute mailbags.
Yeah. 3 each. Let's start with Royer. Underclassman Royer. 3 underclassmen that you would love to see stay. Or just younger guys in general.
I feel like all the guys that are leaving, they got 2 years left, so they're really not young guys, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of the guys leaving are guys you played with for a year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Barry Jackson. I'll draft Barry Jackson number 1.
Oh, that's a good one.
Jonathan Thompson.
I honestly don't think I'll be able to name them off for you.
Yeah. Well, then we'll do it as a group. Barry Jackson, Jonathan Thompson.
Number 2.
You could throw Dingle in there.
Is he considered young?
Yeah.
Year 3 now?
Sophomore.
Yeah, I guess.
He's not going anywhere.
Ken Willis.
Ken Willis has been all right. I'm really excited. A guy I think we're gonna talk a lot about next year is Brian Sims.
Okay.
Physically, I really like how that kid looks. Kalen Carroll will have a chance. I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of competition in that safety room going forward.
What about Bird at running back? Get healthy?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Drogosh? He's probably
Drogosh. I mean, yeah, he's up there for sure.
Do you see him making a run at the job?
At the job for next year? I think he needs another year.
Yeah.
I think he needs another year, at least more where he's in that second string role potentially, where he gets an opportunity to win that second string role, where he can get reps with the 2s and cycle in with the 1s. Like, I think that's an important next step in his progression before he just jumps straight from third team to first team. That worries the crap out of me.
Ethan Green.
Ethan Green is like in his fifth year. He's not young by any stretch. And
no, he's not.
Ethan Green is not in his 5th year.
Oh, not Ethan Green. I thought Ethan Wright was in my brain, what I heard. Ethan Green, yeah, depends on what they bring in at tackle. Like, if they don't get immediate help at tackle, then he gets fast-tracked to the front of the line.
Tyler Gillison as well.
Yeah, with Jamal Williams. I mean, that opens the door for Tyler Gillison for sure.
Mm-hmm. Good list, guys. Good list.
Do we think Threats is leaving?
All right.
Moving on.
Sorry about bouncing out. Moving on.
You got
Aaron was like,
does public
Aaron was like unpaid vacation. Fuck this podcast. And he was gone.
I was taking some vacation minutes that I've accumulated here. I just took some vacation minutes. Does public fan negativity, booing, tweeting, etc., cause more overall harm than most fans are willing to admit? Ryan, how much of the noise do you hear?
They didn't
it
lose.
Booing, it's kind of like, all right. I mean, I guess we know we're playing bad. It's kind of icing on the cake. It's not gonna it's not gonna affect anything that we're doing because we already know when we're playing like shit. I mean, I'm not telling you, you can boo all you want. Like, your fans, you have your opinion on how we're playing, and if you're booing, we're probably playing pretty bad. But it's not gonna make us all woe is me or anything because we already really know that we got to sharpen up. So I'm not opposed to it. I think it's good to kind of set the tone. Like, hey, we expect more. But there's definitely a lot of tweets that are very like when they were booing Ben Bryant. I think that was ridiculous. That's pretty on par with a lot of the tweets surrounding that situation as well. But tweeting, you're never going to get rid of stupid tweets. So it doesn't really do that much harm anyways, because players know it's ridiculous.
I mean, I think it does have an effect overall too, though.
Just negative energy, you're saying?
Yeah, just I mean, vibes go a long way. And if you're getting boobers left and right, I'm sure you're probably not really loving going out there to try and prove them wrong, I guess.
Yeah. We don't it's just the fans aren't going to alter our scheme and how we execute in terms of what we think we need to do to win. But they do affect the game greatly in terms of the environment for the other team and encouragement.
Right.
But in terms of no cheer or boo is really gonna re-alter our scheme and re-alter our ability to execute.
Yeah, I feel that.
Brent's out here. Good vibes only, guys. Good vibes only.
Good vibes are great.
Hey, you heard John Cunningham say it too, man. Momentum's a big thing.
Just give it a hard
Come on now.
All right. How do you think one-year transfers feel about the program they go to? Although I know it may end up depending on the kid or the success of the team. I do wonder if dudes like Emery and DG even consider themselves Bearcats this past year, especially given how poorly the year went. But at least speaking for myself, I hope they do. Any thoughts on that?
I will say, knowing both of those kids, I think they felt like part of the program. I mean, the level is going to be impacted just because they never really got to experience what the winning is like. So it leaves you in a tough spot. I don't know that there was one, but if there was a 1-year transfer on the 2021 team, I bet they had a great time. Right? They won every game. They went to the college football playoff. They got to play in Jerry World. I'm pretty sure they had an awesome time of it.
Yeah.
And the vibe from Emery and DG, like I said, those were good dudes. I don't think they will walk away really with anything negative to say about their time here.
I understand the question. I think they're more or less asking if they were really involved, emotionally tied to the rivalry games. And
yeah, I think I'm just saying, I think those two particular examples, yes, I do think that.
I think all the losses hurt Emery for sure. If all else is equal, what is the higher priority when evaluating portal prospects? Number 1, proven player with 1 year of eligibility, or number 2, player with multiple years eligibility that has played but still needs some development?
I think 1. You want to recruit and develop your guys first before developing.
Well, 1 is a guy that just is here, come and go.
It's a rental player, essentially.
Yeah. I think it depends on where you're at as a program, right? If you're a team that feels like you've got 9, really solid starters on defense, and you can go out and add a 1-year guy that gives you 10, I think that's a pretty high priority because you can close a gap on a team that you feel is ready for a championship. If you're where Cincinnati is right now, I think you have to look at as many, multiple year guys as you can stomach. But win now. So you do have to find a couple spots where the 1 year guys maybe make sense. Like it's a sliding scale on that. Like it's hard to answer because all else is never equal, I guess is the right way to say it, right? If all else is equal, well, it can't be equal because every situation requires a different philosophy. Nobody else?
That he
That's
was
it?
gone.
I'm good.
I'll be right back.
All right. Question for Royer. What is the end of the season talk like for walk-ons? Is it like good job on scout team and please stay? How were you informed about getting placed on scholarship / how did it feel?
Yeah, for walk-ons, it would be kind of like if you don't want to play anymore, you go tell your coach, like, I don't want to play anymore. And, pending your role on the team and the type of player you are, they will either ask you to reconsider or they'll kind of just say, well, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. And you pack your stuff up and leave. But what was the second
Did you ever
part?
think
How are you
about
informed?
leaving?
Me? Oh, not once, not for a millisecond. Never. I loved
What did
it.
you say to your walk-on brothers that did
Bearcat
reach that
strong.
point? That's how
I
you
would
be
just
Mr.
tell them,
Bearcat,
like,
Brent.
I would tell them, like, this is hard. You're not getting paid. You're not playing. Like, I love having you here on the team if I had a relationship with them. And I would always tell them, like, it's always worth it. But there were times I was in a better spot than some other walk-ons in terms of I got to travel. I got to play in games sometimes where some guys weren't able to do that. So it doesn't always feel like it's paying off, because you don't
You got to
get,
make a wish block punt.
yeah. Yeah. But I just loved the game so much. So I wanted to be on the team and play. I loved Cincinnati. I loved my teammates and I wanted to be a part of everything at all times. But, some guys are different. They have different experiences. So it's not really the same story, but in terms of the scholarship, the first time I got put on scholarship, it was the spring in between my second and third year. And Coach Fickle I've told the story before where I was just in practice and Jared Dokes and I like smashed heads on a blitz pickup. I'm all out of it. And Coach Fickle's like, oh, come up to my office after practice. I was like, okay. But I was kind of all banged up. Didn't really know what was going on. Go up there. He's like, listen.
You had a concussion.
I don't know. I got checked out by Mr. Himmler and the neuro guy. I cleared somehow. I was slipping the neuro guy at 20 though. And he's like, I don't want to make a big deal out of this. It's not really what I want to do, but you're on scholarship now, so sign this. We really appreciate what you're doing. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. And then after that, it was like a bi-semester thing because when the new recruits would come in, we'd lose scholarship spots. But after the season, we'd have openings because guys would graduate, guys would transfer. So there'd be a limited amount of scholarships that the staff would award to walk-ons they felt deserved that. So I would kind of get a rotating thing where I'd be on in the spring, summer, but off in the fall. And that carried from all the way through my last year. But then they put me on scholarship in the fall, my fifth year. That's kind of like a thing they do for guys that have like stuck it through and like did a lot for the program. And then honestly, something that happened that makes one of the many reasons why I love Coach Fickle was he he let me stay on scholarship after I stopped in the fall of my 5th year. He kept me on scholarship through the spring semester to pay for my last semester of school and my board, like my apartment. And yeah, I never forget that because he didn't have to do that for me. He already did plenty for me in my career, and I couldn't have asked for any more, but he blessed me with that. So that's one of the reasons why I love Coach Fickle, and I always swear by him, because doing something like that for me and doing stuff like that along those lines for other walk-ons and just building a culture that promotes that kind of stuff. That's why I love the man. But yeah, that was kind of an off spin from the question, but
I do want to get back to one day,
We
Brent.
love you. We love you too, though, Royer. So give us
Brent, put this in
sugar.
your memory bank of questions for Ryan, like the difference between being on scholarship and being off, and explaining that to people. I don't want to do it tonight because we're already 2 minutes and 10 seconds into this thing, and it's probably a long answer.
It's in the memory book.
2 hours
All right,
and 10 minutes, not 2 minutes and 10 seconds. But yes.
Whatever, 2 hours.
Aaron, semantic man.
Blah, blah, blah.
Another question for Ryan. When did you feel like you developed the most as a player, during the offseason or during the season with live reps? Thanks.
I'd say biggest jump was the off season after my freshman year. And that's a lot of the guys will say that because it's your first real off season with Brady and the boys and your first spring ball. That's when you learn the most. You learn the most about the defense. You learn the most about football in general, and you're getting the most live reps against like your best competition because it's good on good all spring. Yeah, my game, my strength made tremendous strides in the weight room, my speed, my athleticism, and then kind of having to hone that all in and learn the defense and get more comfortable because your freshman year, you're just learning shit. Your head's spinning. But in that spring ball, you kind of learn it and you get it down, and you see the biggest jumps with walk-ons, recruits, everyone takes that big first off-season jump into your second year.
All right. That is the football portion of the mailbag. I do believe. Moving on to the basketball portion.
But before you do the basketball portion real quick, I did want to give a shout out. Bearcats are receiving votes in the AP poll. Shout out to that. Let's hope that it happens. But special shout out to Brian Holland of WVLA TV, WGMB TV. Had the Bearcats in 24th on his top 25, getting them the others receiving votes tally. Can you guys take a guess where this man is from, where this gentleman, Brian Holland, is from?
No.
Negative.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Got ourselves a little fan down there.
Good on him.
Maybe the, who knows? It was Tari Eason connection. He's like, wow, these going to attract.
That's it. I'm sure that's it.
Maybe.
That's probably definitely it, Brent. You nailed it.
I mean, probably, yeah.
You nailed it.
No,
waiting on that Scott Springer vote.
Scott Springer doesn't vote for the AP on basketball.
That's unfortunate. Any plans to incorporate current or former student managers into the BCJ content package? That's the first question in your basketball portion of the mailbag.
No. Are there direct plans that I've spoken about with anyone on that front? No, it hasn't come up in any of the meetings. But we'll add it to the agenda. I like those guys. Like, I've known a bunch of the managers in those guys are great. None of them have ever expressed none of them have ever expressed to me a desire to get into the field.
They have not asked me to be on the pod either. So
right. So yeah. No, not yet.
They do enjoy listening to the pod though. So shout.
Yeah, there's a lot of they're great dudes. I like a lot of them. I know a lot of them. Those are guys I regularly dap up. Yeah. In terms of like the content schedule, they've not cracked the content schedule yet. That's not to say they won't.
Always open.
Oh, like Chad Ochocinco, huh?
Jamar Chase.
He stole that. Anyway. With Tyler McKinley coming in next year, do you see his game mimicking a true 5 or more of a stretch 4 like Vic seems to be excelling in this year?
I don't see Tyler as a 5. I see him as a unique 4. If he can like more consistently shoot the ball from the perimeter, which I think he'll develop, with more work over time, then you could probably label him a stretch 4. But he's a guy that plays really well from the mid post. He can really pass. He rim runs really well. Like I see him at the 4, but I don't know. There's he's kind of somewhere between like a traditional 4 and a stretch 4, if that makes sense. Like he's kind of a blend of the two, which makes him different, which you hope that's part of what makes him good as a college player, is he can kind of give you a little bit of both of those things.
Yeah. I mean, what did Wes mentioned Draymond Green was a name brought up when thinking of it. I mean, that's just a simple. I was trying to find another one. Someone mentioned something else about it.
I know. I just, that's a comparison between one of the nicest humans on the planet and a complete asshole.
Oh, Draymond is the one guy in the NBA that I just simply cannot stand. All
right. The people need Bergie Knights. No question, just a simple statement.
I haven't heard from usually I let Berg determine that. When he kind of went and started really focusing on the landscaping business, I said, look, if you ever want to be on a show, call me. If you ever want to write an article, send it to me and I'll post it. So that's kind of in his corner. When he's ready to talk about this team, I'll get a call one afternoon as he's driving around saying, hey, I want to tag in. I will let him tag in. That's how it works with Berg. That's kind of our agreement.
A Bergie nightcap in the future, I see.
I'll be shocked if he's not actually giving his time and energy into this team.
Yeah. At some point in time in the near future, we're going to get Berg pacing around his house at 11:30 at night doing a nightcap, without question.
Aaron, what is up with you not loving threes, Aaron?
Moving on. Plays of the game. Number 1, Aziz, first block of the game, tone setter. Number 2, Dayton behind the back, step back for the 2-point right baseline. Number 3, CJ's 2 threes back to back to help continue the run. This game is so long ago, I can't remember if there were any that I would put in the top 3. But
Dan's dunk was a big one for me. But I would go Aziz first block of the game. Like the energy in that building was ready for it. And then within a minute of coming in,
immediately. Yeah.
He just immediately tracked somebody from the weak side. Like I said, it was like a lion stalking its prey.
Right.
The ball went up in the air and he spanked it into the student section. It was like, oh, okay. Yeah. The wait was worth it. This is different.
I turned to you right away. I said that would have been a layup. The first couple of games.
I can't wait to get a non-break student section and just full packed.
Well, like someone said in the chat, I think that Georgia Tech game probably really enthused the fan base a lot. If you go and you win by double digits on the road, I imagine that the crowd's going to be pretty nice this weekend. But aside from that, I will mention the number 3 on this list, CJ's 2 threes. That run was some of the most fun I've ever had at Fifth Third. So,
yeah, the only argument I would have against that is by the time he hit those 2 threes, the game was out of reach.
Oh, yeah.
It was just insult, just piling on.
I just kept on just sitting back in my chair, like what? But yeah, definitely.
Brian, you're okay,
Aziz's moment, number 1.
Yeah, Brian, you're okay.
Brian,
don't sweat it.
Is he Ring of Black?
Yeah.
Well, I did. My computer's been all sorts of crazy. As we know, I had disappeared for about 10 minutes. I do have him here as a – we'll get to it, I promise. Anyway. League play losses over under number 1, UC at 9.
I think that's right about where they're going to be.
Under 9 losses.
There's the Brent I know and love.
What, you think they're going to lose half their conference games?
I expect you to answer that way, even if I said over under 5.
I'm with Brent.
Thank you, Royer.
Over. I do think the way things are starting to play out, like there is a bottom of the conference that's starting to develop, and UC has, I believe, 6 games against that group.
West
If you
Virginia,
get-
OK State, UCF, yeah.
Yeah, if you get 4 or 5 wins there, then 10 is all of a sudden starting to look a lot more reasonable. My guess, if you ask me right now, would be 9-9.
I'm gonna also say under though. I'm with Brent.
Hey!
Houston 6.
Man, I mean,
I think they'll lose 5 or 6 again.
Under.
That's I'll take the under, but I think it's going to be really close. They've had some times in the American where they slid a little bit. Like they had a week where they weren't as sharp. The only thing I care about is they win their next game.
right.
I'm gonna say over.
You think they lose at least 7?
I think they lose 7, at least. Yes.
Fair.
Okay. I'm not going to argue.
Number 1 team in KenPom right now. Gonna
They're
get a rude awakening.
They're really good.
They are good.
Brent?
I already said under.
Oh, okay. Oklahoma 8.
I think they'll have more than that. They'll go over.
I'll go. I think right at 8, but maybe under. They look pretty damn good this past week.
Everyone has Oklahoma and Texas circled in a red Sharpie on their calendar, and it's going to be over on 8.
Yeah, I mean they look damn.
All right.
Iowa and USC pretty handily, or USC was
The
close.
last.
If USC's point guard didn't stink, then
Heard that.
Well, that's why I skipped over that question. I didn't think it was
already had that
even.
question last week.
Well, we didn't need to ask it again. It was a reevaluation question. Now that we're 2 weeks into his career instead of 1 week into his career, and yeesh, that's why I didn't think it was worth asking. Any more 2024 high school prospects we should be tracking, or do you think we are done with high school players this cycle?
Right now, no. I don't think there's anybody specifically you should be tracking. That does not mean that they are out on high school players this cycle. Once the portal kicks up and once coaching changes kick up and rosters change and, players react to that, there could be a high school player or two that pops up in the chaos that has become March and April. Right now, I don't think there's anybody that they have circled, okay, this 2024 guy. And, there could also be some guys that really show a great deal of improvement during their high school season that maybe they were on the back of the radar before that play their way up, but you won't know that until we start to see those games.
All right. And going back to the football mailbag, as I did have this and it didn't save for whatever reason. This team seemed to fold the tent at the first sign of adversity numerous times this year. What can the coaching staff do to restore this program's toughness? That's
Find the leadership.
Yeah, that's a Royer question written all over it right there.
Royer, am I right? Find the guys in the locker room that are going to say, bullshit. Okay, great. They scored a fucking touchdown. I don't care. We're going to go out there and get the job done next time. I just think it didn't feel like there was anybody on the team in the locker room that was going to grab somebody. We talked all the time about Dez getting up in front of the team at halftime of games or, on Sundays or whatever.
Kobe.
I think it has to be internal.
I think you had a bunch of support leaders.
Yeah.
Kind of that they never really had to take the reins and they never really felt what it was like to take the reins and lead from the front and lead with their voice, not only just their solid play and good demeanor. And then you have a bunch of positions being filled by transfers. And those guys, I mean, they might be great dudes, but it's nearly impossible to be a vocal and visual leader as someone who's never even been in the program. And you combine those two things and you're going to have a brittle team. I think that's what we were, brittle. And that's something that they're going to, I know Nico is going to hone in on it, and they gotta develop that resiliency, that bend don't break, that regrouping mindset when shit gets bad. They need that, because that, like you said, Chad, it's a coin flip league, coin flip games, teams that fucking find a way to win, that don't panic, that don't fold. Those are the teams you're going to win those coin flip games. You're going to win 3 out of 5 of those. You're going to win 4 out of 5 of those. And then you get to the point where you establish that culture. You're winning all those games and you're at the top of the conference. But yeah, that combination of kind of like
I think we all agree
leaders with transfers.
I think we all agree. We watched a team that when the going got tough, they didn't get going. Like they let the other team take the momentum and keep it too many times.
Same thing, big picture too. In the season, problems seem to stick around.
Yeah,
like things didn't really get fixed.
If you felt like the coaching staff was undisciplined or the team was undisciplined, is that something that you can tighten up in the offseason, or do you feel like you have to continue to be the same as what you were last season?
I think it's definitely you could tighten up in the offseason. You can make it a point of emphasis, even just in the weight room. Like what type of finishers are you doing in the weight room? What type of drills? What type of lifts? How are you conducting those lifts? How are deviations from the culture treated? And then you start working into spring ball, and there can be a clear-cut established mindset immediately. And because we all know what spring ball sets the 2 deep for fall camp, which sets the 2 deep for the season. So guys know, like if you want to find your way out on the field in the fall, spring ball is taken seriously. So if you want to make a point of emphasis of shit and you want guys that are going to respond to what kind of culture, what kind of mentality you want to have, you start in spring ball, because that's when you're going to see the guys that respond to it the best, and guys that you're going to want to put out on the field that are replicating what you're teaching.
Very good. And the last portion of the mailbag, of course, the Banks. Rapid fire. What are your go-to pizza toppings?
Always pepperoni, sometimes sausage.
I like meatball.
Oh,
You're a meatball.
But
exactly,
yeah,
but exactly.
I like Supremo pizza.
I'll take the most Italian thing I can get.
Hey, I'll take the meatball. Can I get some prosciutto on there?
Got some prosciutto and arugula on there now.
Some gabagool on that too.
Only the mozzarella. Only the mozzarella.
My friend Tommy DeVito's coming over.
I know. I was about to say DeVito, full on fucking Jersey Italian mafia, brother.
I'm going over to Tommy DeVito's mom's house
dirty
later.
Italian
bring
as
the pizza.
They making the Sunday sauce.
You know, pepperoni and jalapeno.
Ooh,
all right.
Good little za.
Mine's pepperoni and sausage as well. Pan, regular, or thin crust?
My favorite is Sicilian. Like I like a pillowy, delicious Sicilian pie. Regular thin crust, I'm indifferent. Depends on the place. Like how good are you at the individual discipline?
Yes. Yeah, I concur.
Pizza's delicious. Like it just make it good. I don't care how you do it. Just make it good.
New York style, Detroit style, Chicago style.
Right. I like all that shit.
I don't love.
Gotta be hand tossed New York style. You fold the crust up, little well done on the bottom. You want a nice crisp Portnoy style, you know.
That's not Italian. That's New York.
He got so pissed off at us talking about different styles, he actually put his phone down to respond. He's like, "No, I've had enough of this."
No, my girlfriend texts me. She's like, "How do I tune into the show?" I'm like, "You need to tune in for this segment." I just had to
She's-
send.
She's just now asking you this. You've been doing this for how long?
Like a year and a half he's been with
All right,
us. He started at the beginning of
She's
last
a busy
football
girl.
season.
What's the
She's got
perfect
grad
damn pizza,
school,
Royer?
okay?
Royer, what's the perfect pizza?
He just
hand toss, New York style. You know.
Wood fired, coal fired.
Good undercarriage.
I'd say wood fire. No, coal
flop.
fire. Coal fire. Brick
oven, brick coal fire.
brick
Yeah.
oven. Yeah.
No flop.
No flop.
You're
Can't
such a
be-
Portnoy.
I got a good
I
place
love
I'll take you
Portnoy.
to. Next time you're in Indy,
I
you
do
let me
too.
know, Roya. We'll hook it up.
Roya.
Yeah.
Hey, Roya. You just let me know.
Hey, yo, Roya, let me
What are
know.
we doing?
Who makes the best calzone?
I don't
I don't know.
I don't really eat calzones. I eat pizza.
I'll tell you what, you go over to Martino's for Stromboli Tuesdays, and you can literally get a $5 Stromboli, probably the size of Chad's head.
They're
and
so
that's saying
big.
a lot.
That's a big Stromboli.
And
right
they're
there.
I
not-
have a giant head.
It's a big Stromboli.
Right.
These
Look,
things are.
look. 2 pictures are the size of my head.
It is so big, dude. It
And
is.
those ain't
They
Polaroids right
just
there.
fold a pizza in half at Martino's.
Those
The
ain't Polaroids,
linebackers,
man.
the linebackers would go there, just like to Bond or whatever. We'd all go there for Stromboli Tuesday, and you guys know Joel. Joel's obsession with eating. He would eat 2 of these things before we would
Jesus.
eat 1. Chad, I'm not kidding you. These things they're bigger than a football. They're bigger than a football. Joel would eat 2
So is
of
my
them.
head.
Yeah. It's like an NFL sized football, but bigger.
Shouts to Joel. Saw him at the game.
Yeah.
He was there.
Always shout outs to Joel.
Shouts to Joel.
The boy.
The boy.
All right. And the last question in the mailbag: should Chad be allowed to fight a BCJ member once a month and not have negative repercussions for his business?
Oh,
I'm not touching that one.
I don't know that I would need a whole year.
a BCJ member. Wow.
There's
don't-
just
don't-
there's just a couple. There's just a couple.
Answering
I
this
would
question
like to.
answering this question doesn't do you any good.
Hey, I don't pay you to tell me what to do. There's a couple that I would like to smack around a little bit, but for the most part, it doesn't. There's not enough to fill a whole year. So if we can't fill a whole year, what's the point?
That's the mailbag. Get us out of here, Brent.
That's a fair answer. Basketball finally back. It's going to be a wild, wild week in the other sports. So enjoy the game tomorrow night. Head over to Chad. Go ahead and plug it one last time.
We'll be at Rheingeist. Doors open at 6. Game starts at 7. It's the 1-year anniversary of the launch of Cincy Reigns. Come get you some Cincy lights. I will be there. We will have a great time, and we will watch the Bearcats take on Howard. If I don't talk to you during the game, it's because I'm watching the game. I
Don't
still
get
like
mad.
you. I will wait if you can wait till a timeout, I will talk to you. If I ignore you as the game is being played, it's because I have to talk to Aaron about it when the game is over.
The Bison. The Bison of
Before we
Howard.
leave, can we all wave goodbye to one of the worst seasons of recent memory of
Yeah, let's do
football?
it. Let's
Yes. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
do it. Can we give it a collective see ya? Like Aaron does?
Yeah.
Ready?
See ya.
1, 2, 3. See ya!
See ya.
I like it. Gosh.
No
That's gonna be
more
wild,
3-9.
though, but,
I can't do it.
stay
again.
tuned in.
Please, Satterfield.
We'll have all wall-to-wall coverage on all that. But tomorrow night, Howard, as Chad mentioned, a special shout-out, special thank you as well to John Cunningham for coming on, giving us an hour of his time. It was awesome. Shouts, of course, to Danco Transmission Auto Care, Home Field Apparel, and our guys, Quick Paper Supply. But for my broadcast pals, partners, squad, Aaron Smith, Chad Brenda, Ryan Royer, I am Brent Young. Get another fantastic BBP presented by BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!